Chapter 23:35. After a pause, he asked guiltily, "If I may ask, CEO Mu, is the victim awake now?" He said, "He just came out of the emergency room. He's still in critical condition." Then, Mu Yaja continued, "If you want to get clues from the victim, I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult. His vocal cords are burned, and his injuries are serious. It'll be difficult for him to speak. I'm afraid we'll have to wait a little longer." TSK. This is going to be difficult. Difficult? Mu Yaja said coldly, "The culprit has escaped. If we let him go, there may be a second or third victim. Shouldn't the most important thing now be to find the culprit and bring him to justice? It sounds simple, but it's still difficult to execute. The police are not gods, after all. Plus, after the incident last night, there were many obstacles in collecting evidence. The clues were cut off, and we can't find anything even if we force ourselves to investigate." Mu Yaja's face became colder. The bureau chief coughed heavily and glared at him. The young captain then realized that his words were too rude, and he lowered his head helplessly. "Are there no surveillance cameras in the neighborhood?" "Yes." "Then why don't you get them?" The captain said helplessly, "There are surveillance cameras, but the neighborhood where the incident happened has been around for a long time. It was built in 1988, and now it's been a few decades. Many of the surveillance cameras have fallen into disrepair and are no longer functional. We also went to the property management to get the surveillance cameras. Other than the garage, the entrance, and some other important places with new cameras, the place where the incident happened to be in the blind spot of the surveillance cameras. We couldn't capture anything." The bureau chief pondered for a while, then suddenly said, "Time the victim was attacked, and get some of the surveillance footage from the entrance of the neighborhood. See if we can find any suspicious people coming in or out." The captain shook his head. "We planned to do that from the beginning. But after watching the surveillance for a few hours, we didn't see any suspicious people coming in or out." "How is that possible?" The bureau chief was shocked. "Can you get the surveillance footage of the victim coming in or out of the gate? See if there were any suspicious people following him in after he entered the neighborhood. Basically, we can confirm the suspect." The captain said, "The key is that we didn't see the victim coming in or out of the gate. Chief, there's a back door in this residential area. There's a garage at the back door. Many residents use the back door to enter and leave. The building where the victim lived was close to the back entrance, so I'm guessing that he probably entered the residential area from the back entrance. Then let's start from there and get the recording. There are no surveillance cameras at the back door." The bureau chief cursed in his heart, "This criminal really knows how to pick a location. Could it be that before committing the crime, they had specially checked the neighborhood to see which places had surveillance cameras? The bureau chief furrowed his brows in frustration. Could it be that not a single witness was found? It was already very late when the incident happened. Moreover, the residential area in this area is near the industrial area. Because there are many foreigners nearby, there are very few people walking around in the middle of the night. We thought that there should at least be surveillance cameras in the garage, but when we got the footage, we couldn't capture the situation of people going in and out of the garage." Chapter 23:36. The bureau chief suddenly knocked on the table and asked sternly, "Is it possible that it was a robbery?" The captain said hesitantly, "It's possible, but I've never seen or heard of such a ruthless crime. I've also never seen someone who would bring concentrated sulfuric acid to a robbery. Only those who seek revenge and cause trouble would do such a cruel thing." When the bureau chief heard this, he looked at Mu Yaja with a complicated expression and asked carefully, "CEO Mu, haha. Do you think this victim has any enemies?" The captain said, "I also suspect that it was revenge. It's just that we can't find any conclusive evidence in such a short time, so the case has been put on hold and it's hard to make any progress." Mu Yaja said expressionlessly, "I want to take a look at the surveillance cameras in the neighborhood." The captain immediately said, "I've copied all the intact surveillance footage into the laptop. If you want to take a look, you can take a look at it any time." The bureau chief immediately asked him to bring the laptop over. After the laptop was brought over, he pulled up dozens of surveillance footage. Muyaja sat in front of the laptop and stared at the screen intently. The timeline was pulled back from 10 p.m. to 1 p.m. when the incident happened, and the footage was fast-forwarded at x4 times. The neighborhood was indeed a little old, as many residents owed property fees. Half of the property had already collapsed, leaving only an empty shell with a security booth guarding it. Over the years, there had been a problem with public security. Other than theft, there were also frequent robberies. However, most of the time, the criminals came for the property. After taking the property, they would not do anything that would harm the safety of others. The surveillance cameras in the garage were still new. The property management had only installed a new one after the residents complained that their cars were being stolen one after another. Muyaja sat there and watched the video for more than 2 hours as he shuffled it back and forth. The bureau chief and captain were also patient and watched from the side. 3 pairs of eyes were hoping to find even the slightest clue in so many videos. After watching the surveillance footage, Muyaja suddenly thought of something. Are there any surveillance cameras near the apartment building? There are, but there's only one. It's a winding path that's close to the garage. He listened to the captain's analysis of the route at the scene of the incident and vaguely remembered that there was a shortcut to the apartment building. The captain also reacted abruptly. The surveillance cameras on that road didn't seem to have noticed it. Because it was a small corner, they didn't take care of it too much. Let's take a look, Muyaja ordered. The captain immediately operated it skillfully and quickly pulled up the surveillance footage of that area. She adjusted the time and fast-forwarded it at 8 times the normal speed. Finally, at 11:45 a.m., she saw Yun Yecheng's figure. That night, he was dressed in white, so he was especially eye-catching. This new set of clothes was bought for Yun Yecheng by Muyaja and Yun Shishir. Yun Yecheng especially liked it. After Yun Yecheng passed by, a suspicious figure soon appeared in his line of sight. It was a man with short hair. He was neither tall nor short. He was dressed in black and wore a beret. He was dressed very ordinarily, so it was difficult to attract attention. It was the kind of ordinary that no one would notice if they walked on the street. Chapter 23:37. Dressed in black, he almost blended into the night. Coupled with the limited resolution of the surveillance camera, only his back could be seen. He followed closely behind Yun Yecheng, leaving only 3 minutes between them. Judging from his behavior, he seemed to be very cautious. He did not carry anything suspicious in his hands. Muyaja paused the image and observed for a while. He found that the man's pockets were bulging. It was probably stuffed with a bottle of concentrated sulfuric acid. The captain took a screenshot and zoomed in twice, but the image instantly blurred when he zoomed in. Not to mention the man's facial features, even his clothes were indistinguishable. The captain grumbled, "This camera is really old. The image quality is terrible." The chief said, "Look at the other surveillance cameras and see if you can find out where this person left from." Another hour had passed. The strange thing was that even after looking through all the surveillance footage, there was no trace of the man leaving. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air without a trace. If this person is really the suspect, then I have to say that he's very meticulous. After committing the crime, he probably snuck out from a small corner to arouse suspicion. There were many fences in the neighborhood that had been in disrepair for a long time. Due to the wind and rain, they had already aged. Many of the fences were broken, so an adult could leave without much effort. Look at the surveillance cameras on the streets outside the neighborhood and then start investigating. Since we already know the suspect's basic characteristics, there should be hope of finding other clues. As soon as the chief finished speaking, the captain splashed cold water on him. This neighborhood is not far from the industrial area. Many of the roads nearby are provincial roads. Some of the roads don't even have illegal surveillance cameras, let alone security cameras. Therefore, there are often cases of robbery and theft around this neighborhood. There are dozens of cases in a year. However, because the rent is cheap, many factory workers rent here. This was going to be tricky. It was difficult to make any progress just by knowing the suspect's basic characteristics. It was impossible to draw a criminal portrait just by looking at his back. In addition, there were no eyewitnesses. If they wanted to continue investigating this case, they could only rely on the victim's words to make further inferences. Return without any results? How was that possible? Basically, they didn't find any strong clues, but they still had to exert some pressure. Muyaja exerted a lot of pressure on the bureau chief and ordered him to have a lead on the case within 10 days. Even if they did not find the culprit, they had to at least determine the scope of the investigation. How could the bureau chief dare to offend this great Buddha who was practically omnipotent in the capital? After putting on a fawning smile and speaking nicely, he finally managed to get this great deity to leave. As soon as Muyaja stepped out of the police station, the chief's face fell instantly. His face was full of resentment and his wrinkled face was full of anger. He was so angry at Muyaja that his facial muscles were stiff from smiling the whole time. He turned around and lashed out at the captain. Did you hear that? He gave me 10 days. If there's no progress in 10 days, you can pack up and go back to the branch. You don't have to stay here anymore. Chapter 23:38. The captain, on the other hand, was young and had graduated from the police academy 5 years ago. He was considered young and promising to be able to climb to his current position. However, he was full of resentment when such a huge amount of pressure was placed on him. He thought to himself, if every case could be solved so easily, I wouldn't be sitting in this lousy position anymore. Do you think all cases are so easy to solve? These big shots are really interesting. With just a few words, they gave us a deadline, and they want us to solve the case within the stipulated deadline. Even if I were Sherlock Holmes, I wouldn't have such great ability. The bureau chief glanced at him. How could he not know what he was thinking? He said coldly, "Don't look at me. Just look at me. There's nothing on my face. Even if you see through my face, you won't be able to solve the case. Do you hear me? 10 days. Don't bother about the other cases for now. Just focus on this case. If you can't solve it, don't come and see me. Do you hear me?" Yes. When Yun Shishir woke up, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The two little guys were still sleeping soundly. Yun Shishir couldn't bear to disturb them, so she sneaked into the bathroom and called Gong Jie. On the other end, Gong Jie had just picked up the phone, but he didn't sound tired at all. "Sis, you're awake? Did you sleep for a while longer? How's Dad?" "He's still lying in the hospital ward. In the morning, his condition worsened and he was sent to the emergency room again. He's out of there now." Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. She said anxiously, "Dad was sent to the emergency room again?" "Yeah, then why didn't you call me?" Gong Jia was silent for a moment. "I was afraid that you would be worried." Yun Shishir took a deep breath and realized that she had lost control. She couldn't help but apologize. "Shao Jia, I'm sorry. I was just too worried. I was afraid that, when I woke up, I wouldn't even be able to see Dad for the last time before he was gone." Gong Jia's heart skipped a beat. How could he not understand this feeling? When he was young, he had also woken up to find that his mother was no longer around. His elder sister was no longer around. His entire family seemed to have been annihilated. "I'm sorry, sister. Fortunately, he's been rescued. The doctor said that his condition has stabilized. We'll observe him for a few more days." Yun Shishir nodded. "I'll come to the hospital right away. Where are you and Xiao Chen? Are you awake?" "No, she's still sleeping." Yun Shishir pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Why don't you bring some food to the hotel? You haven't slept for a day and a night. Why don't you rest for a while? It just so happens that you can stay in the hotel with the two little guys. I'll be more at ease." "All right." Half an hour later, Gong Jia entered the hotel with a lunchbox. As soon as he stepped in, Yun Shishir saw his tired face and couldn't help but feel sorry for him. "Little Jia, you must be tired after standing guard for an entire night." "No." Gong Jia said casually, "I'm already used to it." why don't you go home first? You don't have to stay here. Gong Jie's back stiffened for a moment. He looked back at her and suddenly walked in front of her and pulled her into his arms. I'm not leaving. Chapter 23:39. He was on vacation now. Even if he wasn't on vacation, he would still push back some of his work to stay by her side. Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment before she smiled. Don't you feel tired? No. Gong Jie shook his head and said seriously, as long as I'm by your side, I won't feel tired. Shao Jie, Gong Jie stared into her eyes and said affectionately, you know how much I wish that we could go back to how we used to be, inseparable every day. No matter how far we go, I'll always be the one by your side. Yun Shishir's eyelashes suddenly flickered and she laughed. You'll have your own family in the future, just like me. You'll have a wife who loves you deeply and a pair of adorable children. It might be difficult to go back to how we used to be. Before that day comes, I'll still be by your side. Gong Jie's gaze softened and he suddenly said softly, I was already by your side before we were born. That's right. They were fraternal twins. They had been together since they were born. Their mother had also told them about the circumstances of their birth. When they were born, they held hands and did not let go even after they entered the incubator. When they grew up, they were inseparable and their hearts were linked. Even if they did not say anything, they could still read each other's minds. When Shao Jia was happy, she would also feel happy and excited from the bottom of her heart. When she was sad, Shao Jia's mood would also be inexplicably low. He would silently stay by her side and not say anything. When they were laughing, when they were crying, their expressions were exactly the same. Their mother had once said that no matter what they did, even if it was a simple task like brushing their teeth, their movements were exactly the same. When they stood together, it was like looking into a mirror. They had perfect chemistry. I was already by your side before we were born. Yun Shishir's heart warmed when she heard this. She hugged him and said, Shao Jia, you really make me feel safe with you by my side. He had already grown up and was no longer the stupid troublemaker he was when he was young. He had already become a reliable man. Gong Jia gave her a doting smile as he gently rubbed her head. Go on then. I'll rest for a while. If anything happens, contact me immediately. All right. Yun Shishir left the hotel room. Just as she walked out of the room, she suddenly bumped into a young man standing outside the room. He was wearing a suit and leaned against the wall. He wore glasses and looked very refined. It was obvious that he had a headset on his ear, like a personal bodyguard. When he saw her walk out of the room, he immediately approached. Yun Shishir was instantly on her guard, only to see him walking closer to her and saying seriously, Miss Yun, don't be afraid. I am the bodyguard assigned by Gong Xianxing to protect you. So it was a false alarm. I'm going to the hospital. All right, I'll send you. Yun Shishir nodded her head. No need, this is Gong Xianxing's order. I'm just following orders. By the time she reached the hospital, Mu Yaja was already there. He had just left the doctor's office when he saw her. He raised his eyebrows and asked, You're awake? Yes. You didn't sleep all night? Mu Yaja said, I rested in the car for a while to recover my energy. Chapter 23:40. Yun Shishir was extremely nervous as she asked a series of questions. Mu Yaja said, his life isn't in danger for the time being, but we still have to be on guard during the infection period. For the time being? Yun Shishir shuddered when she heard this. That means, his life could be in danger anytime and anywhere? Mu Yaja nodded. It depends on how well he recovers during the infection period. If he recovered well this week, he would have to undergo the 6th surgery next week to protect his eyeballs and eyelids, perform functional skin grafts on his arms and knees, and clean up the necrotic tissue. Currently, because he was in the infection period, he could not undergo intensive surgery for the time being. The doctor explained that because Yun Yeching's entire face would be burned, his eyelids would not be able to close completely. What was even more painful was that his face had already festered and was completely charred. Even if he underwent skin grafts, he would not be able to reconstruct his former appearance. His appearance would be destroyed. The most terrifying thing was the pain that would accompany him for the rest of his life. Yun Shishir was silent for a moment before she smiled faintly and said, "No matter what, I must pull myself together in the future and face it together with Dad. Don't worry. It's fine as long as he's still around. Don't think too much about the rest for now." Muyaja hugged her and said gently, "No matter what, I'm here." "Okay." Yun Shishir calmed herself down and sat down on the bench. "He hasn't woken up yet?" "He was anesthetized during the surgery. The anesthetic hasn't worn off yet, so he hasn't regained consciousness yet." Yun Shishir sighed deeply. "It's good that he hasn't regained consciousness. He'll only be in pain when he wakes up." For 2 consecutive days, Yun Shishir and Gong Jia took turns guarding the hospital while Muyaja had to take care of the 2 little guys. In addition, there was still a long way to go after the land contract signing ceremony. Hence, he entered a busy period. Even though he was busy, he would still take some time out to accompany them at the hospital. News came from the police station one after another, but in the end, there was no substantial progress. Yu did not slack off at home these few days. He hacked into the city's surveillance system and retrieved the surveillance footage of the area within a few miles of Yun Yecheng's rented apartment. He stared at the footage in front of the computer every day, but he could not find anything suspicious. It was flawless. It was precisely because of this that Muyaja was even more certain that this wasn't an ordinary robbery. After the new year, Qin Zhou received a lot of invitations to auditions. At the same time, he also received a lot of invitations to Yun Shishir. He picked out a few scripts. When he contacted her, Yun Shishir replied that she would be taking about half a month off for the next month. It was said that his father had an accident and was now in the hospital. He was in danger of infection at any time and needed a family member to accompany him. Qin Zhou was also a reasonable person. He told the production crew and advertisers that they would delay the release of the movie. The other side also agreed. Originally, there was a charity gala this week. He wanted to bring Yun Shishir along with him. The so-called charity gala was the famous bazaar charity night. At the charity gala, celebrities would gather and dazzle. Other than some big shots and famous philanthropists, some billionaires would also be invited. Chapter 2341. Some of the more scheming female celebrities would dress up to the nines and beg their grandfathers to find a way to get in touch with these big shots. The more scheming ones naturally did not care about these resources. Most of them hoped to use such an event to befriend some rich and famous people. Hooking up with any of them meant that they would enjoy endless wealth for the rest of their lives. By then, what was the point of acting? What was the point of rushing for a script? It was tough being an artist, having to endure cold shoulders and unspoken rules, but it was different being a rich man's wife. They were worshipped by thousands and admired by tens of thousands. It was much more comfortable. Thus, with these ultimate goals in mind, they did everything they could to attract even more attention that night. Qin Zhou naturally did not bring her along for this purpose. Yun Shishir did not lack resources. This charity night would be covered by a lot of media outlets. It would greatly increase the fame and exposure of the event. She did not accept any scripts this new year. The other starlets who were on the same level as her were either rushing to appear on the Spring Festival Gala program or appearing on some talk shows or entertainment programs to increase their exposure. She did not appear in front of the public for more than half a month, so she continued to raise her fame with a posh gala. This charity night was a good opportunity. But it was a pity, such an accident happened. When Qin Zhou learned of this, he and Ji Lin went to the hospital to visit. The moment they made a move, everyone in Huanyu learned of this matter. A few of the higher-ups had a discussion. Although Muyaja was no longer the person in charge of Huanyu, they still had to pay him a visit out of friendship. It did not matter if they did not come. That lineup could be said to be mighty. Many of Huanyu's higher-ups brought gifts to the hospital and lined up the entire corridor. Not only that, many of the company's celebrities also came. The patients and their family members in the few wards near Yun Yeching's were shocked and rushed out to take a look. Seeing so many famous celebrities entering and leaving the ward, only then did they know that there was a serious patient in the ward next door. This alarmed the hospital's leaders. Seeing such a big lineup, they then realized that there was a patient with an extraordinary background in the hospital. He immediately ordered for Yun Yeching to be moved to a VIP intensive care unit with 4 nurses around the clock. At the same time, the media also took action after hearing the news. They lurked outside the door, just to be the first to get a first-hand report. Of course, this was all in the future. After being transferred to a special ward, Yun Yeching finally regained consciousness. When she received the news, Yun Shishir was having dinner outside. When she heard the news, she rushed back to the hospital without eating. Inside the ward, Yun Yeching had already regained consciousness. The nurse was carefully leaning on the bedside to wipe away his tears. Because his eyelids were unable to close, it was difficult to close his eyes. Therefore, he had to wipe away the tears that flowed out in time. Otherwise, it would easily infect the wound. She rushed to the bedside and held onto the bed frame. She looked at him and said carefully, "Dad, can you hear me?" She didn't dare to touch him. Every part of his body was horribly burned. She only dared to speak to him cautiously. Chapter 23:42. Yun Shishir could not help but burst into tears at the sight of him in such a miserable state. However, she held it in and choked out, "Dad, don't force yourself if you can't speak. Recuperate well, I'll always be by your side," the nurse said. "Miss Yun, your father's vocal cords might be seriously damaged. It's still unknown if he can speak in the future. Right now, he can only slowly recuperate." "How much can he recover?" Yun Shishir quickly nodded. "Dad, you don't have to answer me. Who attacked you that night? Do you know him? Is he your enemy? Or is he a robber? If he's a robber, just move your finger slightly." Yun Yeching's breathing quickened when he heard that. His eyes turned red and watery at once. His eyeballs suddenly trembled as he frowned with difficulty. Then, he gritted his teeth slightly. With reddened eyes, he raised a trembling finger. His thoughts suddenly ran wild. The image of the baby's red and wrinkled face when it was born seemed to appear in his eyes. Only the heavens knew how strong the joy and pride he felt when he became a father for the first time was. Yun Yeching still remembered how excited and happy he was when he held the baby girl in his arms. He excitedly carried the baby girl to Li Qin's bedside and said joyfully, "Honey, it's a girl." Li Qin sighed and muttered weakly, "Didn't the doctor reveal that it's a boy? How did you give birth to a girl?" The nurse at the side smiled and asked, "When did you find out the gender of the baby?" "When I did an ultrasound at 4 months. The doctor revealed that it's a boy," Yun Yeching said. The nurse smiled and said, "Oh, 4 months. The accuracy rate isn't high. At most, it's 80%. Sometimes, there are mistakes. However, the girl is also very cute. The most important thing is that both mother and child are safe." Yun Yeching nodded. "That's right. It's good that both mother and child are safe." When he learned that his wife was in labor, he rushed back from abroad to welcome the new life. Li Qin muttered to herself, "I wanted a boy. If I knew it was a girl, I wouldn't have wanted it." The nurse smiled awkwardly. This pregnant woman clearly had a preference for boys over girls. She had seen many pregnant women like this and was not surprised. "What's wrong with being a girl? I quite like girls. They look fresh and cute and obedient. When they grow up, they will be our little cotton-padded jackets and warm our hearts." He looked at the infant in the swaddling clothes and liked him no matter how he looked at him. Even though the newborn's face was red and wrinkled, making it hard to discern any facial features, the thought that this was his flesh and blood still made him dote on the baby immensely. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. What's important is that both mother and child are safe. Yun Yeching hugged the child lovingly. "What should I name it?" Yun Yeching replied, "A girl. Why don't we call her Yun Na? She should be a beautiful girl when she grows up." Yun Na, Ever since she was born, he had loved her dearly and had supported her as they grew up. When Yun-na was young, her eyes and eyebrows were very similar to his. Especially after she entered junior high school, her facial features gradually matured, and she looked more and more like him. But how could the girl he loved and spoiled so much, with such a clear face, turn into such a hideous and twisted face? Chapter 23:43. The night was bleak, and not a single star could be seen. That night, he returned home from work. After parking his car in the garage, he walked along a small path toward his apartment building. Suddenly, a familiar yet cold voice came from behind him. Yun Yecheng. The voice was deep, calling out his name directly. Stunned, he turned around in shock, only to see a woman in a hoodie standing behind him with her hands in her pockets. In the dim night, she was expressionless. There was an indescribable coldness on her face. It was clearly such a familiar face, but it was unknown if it was because of the hideous scars on her face. In addition to that ice-cold expression, it inexplicably made one's hair stand on end. Yun Yecheng's first reaction, however, was surprise. Nana? He recognized the voice at once. After sizing her up for a while, he recognized her at a glance. Unusually surprised, he went up to her and excitedly pulled her into his embrace. You're still alive? You're still alive? His voice trembled due to the excessive surprise. Tears streamed down his face as he called out her name emotionally. You're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. It's good that you're still alive. I thought you were gone like your mother. Yun-na took a step back and said coldly, "Don't touch me." Yun Yecheng was stunned. He did not expect her to be so heartless. His eyes widened, and just as he was about to approach her, she took another step back and coldly tugged at the corner of her lips. It's good that you're still alive? Ha ha. Aren't you very happy when I'm not around? I'm no longer your stumbling block now that I'm no longer around. What right do you have to tell me that it's good that you're still alive? On New Year's Eve, she stood behind a tree outside the villa. Through the window, she saw Yun Yecheng beaming with joy as he hugged Yu in the living room. The snow fell on her, but her heart was colder than the layer of snow on the ground. At this thought, she suddenly gripped the sulfuric acid bottle in her pocket tightly. Her smile turned colder. Yun Yecheng did not notice her little action at all and continued to call out her name in trepidation. Nana, shut up. Yun-na said expressionlessly, "You have no right to call me by my name." Yun-na? Yun-na was dead. The one standing in front of you right now is nothing but a wandering ghost who has come to claim your life. His heart inexplicably trembled at those words that seeped into one's bones. He would never have imagined that his precious daughter who appeared before him at this moment was the incarnation of a malicious spirit who had followed him here in order to take his life. What happened to you when you were missing for a few months? I thought that your mother had taken you away from this place. When your mother's body was found some time ago, I was worried that something bad might have happened to you. But, where have you been for the past few months? Where did he go? Worried? Yun Yecheng, are you worried? Your wife and daughter are missing, but I see that you're living a happy and carefree life. Yun-na looked as if she had heard a joke. If it wasn't for her, Li Qin would still be buried at the bottom of the sea. Not to mention her corpse, even her bones, flesh, tendons, and skin would have been eaten clean by the fishes. Worried? Chapter 23:44. Yun-na clenched the bottle of sulfuric acid tightly and lowered her head. Every muscle in her body was trembling with hatred. If one did not experience it personally, one would never understand the despair of struggling in the waves. How desperate she was at that time. At this moment, she hated Yun Shishir and Yun Yecheng so much. How much did she hate them? She wanted to skin them alive, pull out their tendons, and throw that B*TCH into the sea to feed the fishes. She wanted to see with her own eyes how desperate they were when they died. He, Yun-na's mouth cracked open and she suddenly laughed. She raised her head and stared at him with a pair of cold and bone-chilling eyes. Her laughter was so shrill that it was as if she was a malicious spirit that had climbed up from purgatory. Her voice was so cold and emotionless. It was frightening and chilling at the same time. Li Qin is already dead. Yin Na is also dead. She died in the boundless ocean. She died in the depths of despair. Yun Yecheng, you deserve to die, too. Today, I'll make you accompany them in death. After Yun Na finished speaking, she slowly walked towards him. Yun Yecheng was so stunned that he forgot to dodge. He saw her take out a bottle from her pocket. It was filled with an unknown liquid. She quickly unscrewed the cap and splashed it on his face. Crash! The concentrated sulfuric acid splashed on his face and instantly burned and corroded his intact skin. Before he could react, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. He clutched his face and staggered to the ground, struggling to get up. When Yun Na saw his struggling appearance, her smile suddenly became even more complacent. She casually poured the concentrated sulfuric acid on his body as she wantonly enjoyed the sight of him constantly twitching and struggling. Her face was filled with excitement and a sinister smile. Yun Yecheng. You deserve this. The strong corrosive force instantly burned his skin until it was full of holes. Yun Na poured all the liquid in the bottle into his mouth and threw the bottle at him expressionlessly. There was no need to worry about leaving any traces on the surface of the bottle. Before this, she had already cut off her fingertips with a knife, so there would not be any fingerprints left behind. Yun Na watched expressionlessly as Yun Yecheng struggled in pain and howled at the top of his lungs. She then turned around and slowly left the scene. There was no trace of fear or guilt in his heart. She was calm and composed, as if she was taking a stroll in the back garden, and left just like that. When he woke up and regained consciousness, he knew that he had been sent to the hospital. The doctor walked in and gave him a lot of instructions. He also introduced his injuries. He had barely managed to save his life, but the rest of his life would be accompanied by pain. In the short time he was lying on the bed, he quickly recalled what had happened. When he thought of Yun Na's savage and resolute face, he couldn't help but tremble. Dad, Yun Shishir looked at him worriedly when she saw that he had stopped moving. Yun Yecheng's eyes darted around, and he glanced at Yun Shishir. Then, he recalled Yun Na's deranged face. After some hesitation, he finally sighed. He choked back his tears, and shook his finger laboriously. If he could speak now, he would tell her without hesitation that he had been attacked by an anti-society thug on his way home. Chapter 23:45. He was unable to speak, much less nod or shake his head. All he could do was bend his finger slightly as a nod. Yun Shishir wanted to ask more, but the nurse beside her reminded her that the patient needed rest and should not ask too much. She could only drop the subject. It was not that she did not have any doubts. Robbery? Robbers? The crime scene did not look like it. It clearly looked like someone was out for revenge. However, since Yun Yecheng said so, she could not pursue the matter further. She could only wait for him to recover a little before discussing the rest. Over the next few days, Yun Yecheng's condition gradually stabilized. With 4 to 5 nurses taking turns to look after him, she took the time to make a trip back to Huanyu. Unexpectedly, she bumped into someone she did not want to see at the company. Yun Shishir. Lu Jingtian had just walked out of Ji Lin's office when she spotted Yun Shishir, who was looking for Ji Lin. She was stunned for a moment before breaking into a smile. Long time no see. Yun Shishir, you've been so proud of yourself while I was away from Huanyu. Yun Shishir smiled indifferently. What are you trying to say? Oh. Nothing much. After not seeing her for so long, Lu Jingtian was still as arrogant as before. However, her attitude toward her was no longer as aggressive as before. Her gaze was still cold, though. I've just returned from overseas. Director Ji summoned me and said that he wants to arrange the work for me. Some time ago, she had gone to America to avoid the limelight because of her scandal. While she was there, she also had plastic surgery. After a few months, she recovered well and looked prettier than before. She even had the looks of a celebrity. Although Lu Jingtian's looks were not bad in the past, she was still lacking compared to those leading and A-list actresses. She had gone overseas this time to avoid being noticed and to take advantage of this time to have her surgery. Yun Shishir did not want to bother with her and walked toward the director's office. As the two brushed past each other, Lu Jingtian suddenly mocked, "I heard that Brother Mu has stepped down from his position as the head of the Mu family. It's better for you to keep a low profile in the entertainment industry from now on. Now that we don't have the Mu family to rely on, if we continue to be as arrogant as before, we'll die a horrible death." Huanyu was an entertainment company under the Mu Group. Now that Mu Yaja was no longer the head of the Mu family, he was no longer the master behind Huanyu. Without the Muse as her backing, she was naturally no longer afraid of her. Yun Shishir sneered, "Oh, you too?" She asked in surprise, "What do you mean?" Yun Shishir said casually, "Even if I don't have a big tree to rely on, you won't be my opponent." Lu Jingtian ignored her and taunted, "Hee. You know what? I just accepted a role as the female lead in a movie." Seeing that she was being ignored, Lu Jingtian smugly said, "I fought for this position with my own strength. Do you think I'm like you? What else can I rely on to get to the top other than using underhanded means like the unspoken rules?" Yun Shishir smiled expressionlessly. "Which director was blind to pick you as the female lead?" "You." Lu Jingtian was so angry at her sharp questioning that she almost jumped up. Chapter 2346. She paused for a moment and smiled lightly, but every word she said was like a gem. "Do you feel out of character when you're acting?" "You." Lu Jingtian was furious. After glaring at her for a while, she suddenly burst into laughter. "Yun Shishir, let's wait and see. Do you think you can still be as smug as before?" Hee. With that, she lifted her head and left in her 8-centimeter high heels. Yun Shishir stood at the door and knocked on it. Ji Lin's cold voice was heard. "Who is it?" "Director Ji, it's me. Come in." Yun Shishir pushed the door open and walked in. Seeing her, Ji Lin looked up and asked quizzically, "Aren't you taking care of your father at the hospital? Why are you here?" "Director Ji, thank you for taking care of my father. But..." Yun Shishir paused and took out a check wrapped in an envelope from her bag. It was given to her by Ji Lin and Qin Zhou when they went to the hospital. It was a 6-figure sum. "I can't accept this money." Ji Lin glanced at her before his gaze landed on the envelope. His lips curled up. "What's this for?" "I appreciate the director's concern, but I can't accept such a large sum of money." With that, she handed the envelope over with both hands and smiled. "Thank you." Ji Lin did not reach out to take it, though. "Take it? Question mark. This is a small token from Qin Zhou and me." "A small token?" Yun Shishir could not help but be speechless. She had never seen anyone take out so much money just to visit a patient at the hospital. This was a little too exaggerated. Ji Lin said, "Don't be fooled by how much money it is. A portion of it is the final payment from the commercial you shot. It's what you deserve." "The final payment from the commercial? Didn't you shoot a shampoo commercial before?" "Yes," Ji Lin said concisely, "this is the final payment." "Did the advertiser not fork out a few million yuan at that time? Where did the final payment come from?" Yun Shishir was skeptical. "You came looking for me because of this?" "Yes." Ji Lin suddenly put down his work, looked up, and asked seriously, "How is your father's injury?" "He's still under observation. He's slowly recovering. The last time I took a look, the injuries were very serious. His face is completely disfigured." Yun Shishir pursed her lips and nodded. Ji Lin asked worriedly, "Is there any news from the police station? Have you caught the criminal?" She shook her head. "There's no news yet. The police said that because the criminal didn't leave any evidence and it was already very late at the time of the incident, they couldn't find any witnesses, so it's very difficult to investigate." "That's a lot trickier." Ji Lin suddenly probed, "Could it be that your father offended someone with a strong background?" No matter how I look at it, it seems like they're here for revenge. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so ruthless. That's what I suspected as well, but father didn't say much about it. He only said that it was a robbery. When can you come back to work? Probably next month. When my father's condition stabilizes, I'll be free. When she left Ji Lin's office, Yun Shishir pondered over his words. No matter how she looked at it, it seemed like they were here for revenge. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so ruthless. Revenge? Chapter 23:47. For a moment, she could not make sense of this matter. However, her eyelids kept twitching, and she had a feeling that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Yun Shishir fell into a state of confusion. She bade farewell to Ji Lin and left Huanyu in a hurry. After she hurriedly got into the car and left, Lu Jingtian sat in the car expressionlessly and snorted. What a b***tch. Her manager hurriedly said, Tian, don't waste any more time. You still have to pick out a gown with Miss Enya this afternoon. Okay. I got it, don't rush me. She then looked at the driver's seat and ordered, let's go. Bazaar's annual charity gala was in a few days' time. She had finally obtained an entry ticket, so naturally, she had to dress up grandly. For this opportunity, she had paid a hefty price. She only hoped that she could make friends with some well-known directors and producers at this charity gala. She was not one of those short-sighted artists who would sell themselves in one go and find a sugar daddy to discuss marriage. When it came to acting, she had stepped into this industry because of her passion for acting. Aside from her passion, however, she also had a desire for fame and fortune. Was it purely for wealth? She came from a well-to-do family, so she had resources and people to support her. So what if that incident happened? Once she returned to the country, she could still get people to groom her for the female lead. Although it was not a blockbuster, it was already good enough for her to get the female lead role. She had a good background, so she did not have to climb up through unspoken rules like those female stars who had no resources. Still, although she came from a well-to-do family, it could not satisfy her ambition. There was a saying, man strives for higher places, just as water flows to the bottom. Once one got involved in things like glory and wealth, one's ambition would be uncontrollable. In order to be worthy of a better partner, she naturally had to become more outstanding. This was her goal. Therefore, she urgently needed fame to stabilize her position. As for her dark history, once she conquered the audience with her acting skills, what else could she not clear? In the afternoon, she went to a fashion store with Song Enya to pick out a gown as promised. Naturally, she had to dress up to attend the charity gala. Unlike Lu Jingtian, Song Enya was invited to attend the charity event. Lu Jingtian had met Song Enya a few times after returning to the country, but she was unaware of some of the things that had happened to the latter recently. Naturally, this included Song Enya's pregnancy. She only knew that Song Enya had disappeared for a while some time ago. It was said that she had gone to America, and there was no news of her since. After returning to the country, she had changed completely. It was a change in temperament. Song Enya used to be arrogant and carefree, but now, she was more reserved than before. The two chatted as they picked out their gowns. Just as Lu Jingtian excitedly asked her if a particular gown would match her aura, the Missy suddenly retched. She hurriedly covered her mouth and rushed to the washroom. Startled, Lu Jingtian followed her to the washroom, only to see her leaning over the counter and retching violently. She could not help but frown in surprise at the heart-wrenching retching. Chapter 23:48. Song Enya, who had been lying motionless in front of the table, slowly straightened up and looked at her pale face in the mirror in confusion. She then looked at Lu Jingtian's bewildered face and smiled awkwardly. It's nothing. As soon as she said that, there was another reaction. She covered her mouth and retched for a while, looking extremely painful. Lu Jingtian's heart skipped a beat when she saw this. She raised a brow and could not help laughing dryly. If it weren't for the fact that you don't have a boyfriend, I'd really suspect that you're pregnant. No. Song Enya denied it with a look of embarrassment. However, such a strong reaction was undoubtedly a bit of an attempt to cover it up. Lu Jingtian became even more suspicious. Enya, you don't have to be so serious. Can't you tell that I'm joking? Song Enya's face turned pale for a while before she tugged at the corners of her lips. This joke isn't funny at all. With that, she turned around and was about to leave. Lu Jingtian suddenly grabbed her wrist nervously and asked sensitively, Enya, don't tell me, you're really pregnant. She was not stupid. How could she not tell that such a strong reaction was a typical pregnancy reaction? She had only suspected it at first, but Song Enya's vehement denial only confirmed her guess. She had noticed earlier that the packaging in Song Enya's bag was specially made for pregnant women and had the least amount of lead and mercury. A look of panic flashed across Song Enya's face. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes in pain as she slowly said, Jingtian. I really don't know what to do. After saying that, she squatted on the ground desolately, buried her face in her arms, and started sobbing silently. Lu Jingtian walked over worriedly and gently patted her on the shoulder when she saw the latter's shrug. What exactly happened? I'm pregnant. Song Enya's voice was very soft, as if she was ashamed. With just one sentence, her face turned red as if it was on fire. Lu Jingtian was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth and was stunned for a moment before she asked, whose child is it, Mu? The moment Song Enya said the surname, Lu Jingtian could not help but shudder. Could it be brother Mu? Mu Yancheng. Song Enya's eyes reddened helplessly. The child is his. How can this be? Lu Jingtian could not help feeling flustered. Mu Yancheng? How could this be? They were completely different people. Lu Jingtian and Mu Yancheng were acquainted with each other. Sometimes, they would meet for a drink at a bar. She would even bring along a number of good-looking playmates from her circle. Mu Yancheng was also a playboy, but Lu Jingtian knew that he had a long-term girlfriend who was a young model. No matter how hard he changed women around him, this young model was the only one who would never leave his side. They seemed to have been together for 3 years. 3 years. For such a dissolute man, it was already not simple. Lu Jingtian had always been curious about what that young model looked like to be able to keep such a man by her side for so long. She had suggested several times for Mu Yancheng to bring her out to have some fun, but the latter was so protective of her that he refused to do so no matter what. To Lu Jingtian, he was more like a big brother. Chapter 2349. Although he was a playboy, he was very principled. He would never touch a woman he should not. Still, how did he end up with Song Enya? Lu Jingtian was perplexed. What exactly happened? Under Lu Jingtian's relentless questioning, Song Enya finally revealed the truth about what had happened that night. That day, I bumped into Brother Yancheng at a bar. I saw him sitting alone in a corner, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Feeling depressed, I walked over to take a look at him. Initially, I wanted to have a drink with him, but after just 1 glass of alcohol, he was already dead drunk. Hence, I suggested sending him home. He refused to go home, though. I didn't know his address, so I naturally didn't dare to be rash. Thus, I thought of sending him to a hotel out of kindness. Lu Jingtian became nervous at once. And then? Then, I helped him to the hotel room, and he carried me up in his arms. Then, at the mention of the painful part, Song Enya cried aggrievedly. I shouted a no, but perhaps because he was drunk, he didn't listen to me at all. You know how a woman's strength can compete with a man's, too. On the big bed in the hotel, he took me. She wept bitterly. Lu Jingtian was speechless. He forced himself on you? Song Enya looked helpless. I said no. But he didn't listen to my pleas at all. That was my first time. Lu Jingtian was furious when she heard this. What did he say after that? Song Enya shook her head. After that, it was left unsettled. After he sobered up, he apologized and repented. He said that he was drunk and that it was an unintentional mistake. What an unintentional mistake. A girl's chastity was ruined by him just like that. Lu Jingtian was also hurt by her words. Those dark memories came back to her as well. She clenched her fists tightly and said indignantly, "Men are all bastards." She then pressed, "What happened after that? Did you take the pill?" Take the pill? Oh, yes. The morning after pill. The morning after pill is effective for 72 hours. Yun Shishir shook her head in astonishment. No. After I went back, my mind was in a mess and I forgot about it. Then, have you tested it before? Song Enya lowered her gaze as she bit her lower lip and nodded. Lu Jingtian hurriedly asked, "What are the results of the test?" 2 red lines, it's probably, there it is. Lu Jingtian furrowed her brows. Song Enya suddenly took out a box from her handbag. The box contained a pregnancy test kit. She took out a test kit from the box and showed it to her. She took it and was shocked. "You're really pregnant?" "I don't know if this is accurate." Song Enya stared at him blankly. Lu Jingtian replied, "Just because the pregnancy test failed doesn't mean that she's not pregnant, but once it does, she's definitely pregnant." With that, she gritted her teeth angrily. Mu Yancheng, that B** starred. I thought he always knew when to stop. The two of them had been in a relationship for so many years. Although they were not as close as sisters, at this moment, perhaps because Lu Jingtian was reminded of some unbearable past, she resonated and was filled with righteous indignation. "Jingtian, what should I do?" Chapter 2350. What else can we do? She yelled. He must take responsibility for what he's done. Shoo. Song Enya hurriedly covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. Enya. This isn't something to be ashamed of. You're innocent and a victim, what's there to hide? It's best if you make a big deal out of it and let everyone know about it. Let that jerk step forward and take responsibility for you. But I don't dare. Song Enya flinched. Lu Jingtian snorted. What's there to be afraid of? Just you wait, isn't Mu Yancheng going to attend the charity event? When the time comes, I'll help you tell him that you don't have to feel ashamed. The one who should feel ashamed is him. Song Enya was touched. Jingtian, thank you. Thank you so much. You've done so much for me. Lu Jingtian laughed coyly. We're good friends, after all. Don't worry, although Mu Yancheng did such a thing, he won't deny you if you're pregnant. Okay. All right. There's no point in thinking so much now. Come and pick out an outfit for me. Okay. Lu Jingtian turned around. Behind her, the helplessness on Song Enya's face suddenly faded and was replaced by a smug smile. After picking out the gown and walking out, Lu Jingtian suggested shopping at a nearby mall to buy a bag, but Song Enya declined, saying that she was not feeling well and wanted to go home to rest. Since it was boring to be alone, Lu Jingtian was no longer in the mood to shop, so she waved her goodbye at the entrance. Song Enya took a taxi home directly, while Lu Jingtian's car was parked in the parking lot. It was already late at night by now. She walked toward the parking lot in her high heels. The wind was a little stronger at night, so she quickened her pace. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. The path to the parking lot was sparsely populated, and the dim street lights elongated people's shadows. She initially thought that she was hallucinating, so she slowed down her pace. However, the person behind her slowed down as well. The two kept a distance of several meters, one in front and one behind. Lu Jingtian, however, could not help feeling a little wary. She stopped in her tracks and glanced behind her. Out of the corner of her eye, she vaguely caught a glimpse of a strange shadow behind her. She abruptly turned her head to look, only to see a person dressed in black standing behind her. The man was wearing a hooded sweater. Due to the hooded hood, his face was hidden in the darkness, so she could not see his face clearly. However, when their eyes met, she was startled to find a pair of murderous eyes fixed on her. Seeing that she had stopped, the black-clothed man did not hesitate much. After a while, he lifted his feet and quickly walked towards her. Lu Jingtian caught sight of the dagger in the man's hand at once. Under the streetlight, the gleam of the dagger gave her a fright. Ah! Lu Jingtian's face turned pale with fright. Letting out a shriek, she turned around and ran toward the car. The black-clothed man behind her quickly chased after her. Lu Jingtian became timid and worried that it was a robber. She ran for her life until she saw her white car. Like a person drifting in the sea seeing a piece of driftwood, she rushed over with her hair disheveled and frantically banged on the car window. Open the door. Open the door. A series of screams alarmed the driver. Chapter 23:51. The chauffeur hurriedly unlocked the car. She opened the door, jumped in, and closed it. She was not completely scared out of her wits and even knew to lock the door from the inside. After getting in, she felt a sense of security. She leaned against the car window and looked out, but she did not see that suspicious person again. Still, she could not be completely at ease as she shouted, "Drive! Drive! Miss Jingtian, what's wrong?" She panicked. Someone is chasing after me. He's giving off a murderous aura." The chauffeur was a little surprised. He looked in the direction she was running from but did not see anyone suspicious. "Drive quickly. Hurry." She was scared out of her wits as she waved her hands and gave orders. The chauffeur muttered inwardly, "What's this missy up to again?" Still, he did not dare to neglect her orders. He immediately started the car and slowly drove out of the parking lot. Not far away, a man in black stood out from behind a tree. He looked expressionlessly in the direction the car had left in before coldly turning to leave. Lu Jingtian's sharp eyes caught sight of his figure in the rearview mirror. She turned around abruptly, but he was no longer there. Could it be that her eyes were playing tricks on her? She was too paranoid. The chauffeur said, "It was a false alarm. I didn't see anyone suspicious on the way here." She sucked in a deep breath of cold air. However, when she turned around, she could clearly feel that person's murderous aura. "Miss Jingtian, do you want me to send you home now?" "Yes. Let's go back." Lu Jingtian still had lingering fears even after she reached home. When she stepped into the dark room, she jumped in fright and quickly turned on the lights. Only when the room was brighter did she feel slightly more at ease. She thought back to the person who had deliberately followed her. He gave off an inexplicable sense of familiarity and was not a stranger. It was déjà vu. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could not recall anything. Forget it. Don't let your imagination run wild. I must take care to rest well these few days, lest it affects my complexion. I won't be beautiful on the day of the charity banquet. Lu Jingtian went to bed early. 5 days later, the charity banquet arrived as scheduled. That night, the bazaar charity banquet was held at 8:00 in the evening. The stars on the red carpet. There were many celebrities and famous entrepreneurs in the charity industry invited to the charity banquet. Most of the entrepreneurs who attended the charity banquet had a tacit understanding of their motives. To hunt for beauties. For food. Who was genuinely here for charity? For charity. How many peoples of their hearts? The ulterior motive was not in the wine. These entrepreneurs were shrewd. At the banquet, there would be some famous people's calligraphy and paintings, or private collections, and the proceeds from the auction would all be used for public welfare. There were plenty of connections as twos, of course. At the climax of the party, there would also be a charity donation. Of course, to the rich, and of that to the rich to of the rich to make. To of course to. Twos. Of course, ss, of them of course. Of and that was of to the of course. Chapter 23:52. If they donated a lot, they could even be worshipped by the public, which was very respectable. With their status, they no longer cared about money and only wanted to be in the limelight. Mu Yanqing was here. Lu Jingtian and Song Enya entered the venue and immediately spotted the man who was surrounded by a host of admirers. Lu Jingtian was about to walk over when she saw him walking in another direction with 2 glasses of wine in his hands. He stopped in front of a woman. Lin Shuya? Lu Jingtian was taken aback. Since when did Mu Yanqing and Lin Shuya get so close? Song Enya bit her lower lip and muttered, I heard that the Muse have arranged a marriage for him. The other party is Lin Shuya, the daughter of the Lin family. The two have met, and they're probably getting to know each other better now. Lu Jingtian was indignant. That's too much. He did that to you. Doesn't he intend to give you an explanation? Ha. Compared to the Lin family's daughter, I naturally don't have enough weight. If he can get a marriage alliance with the Lin family, his status in the Muse will also rise with the support of such power. B****. Lu Jingtian scolded again. Forget it. Song Enya was obviously going to give up. Anyway, he has no intention of taking responsibility. Why don't we just abort the child and cut off all ties? How can we do that? Lu Jingtian disagreed. Enya, don't you know how cruel an abortion is to a woman? You haven't even taken the first step, so how can you give up? Besides. She paused for a moment before continuing. To be fair, marrying Mu Yanqing isn't a bad choice for you either. But, we have no feelings for each other. Can we be happy if we get married? Marriage is different from dating. What's the point of talking about marriage when it's already at this stage? Lu Jingtian was very clear about it. As long as he marries you and gives you a status, you won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. What's the point of having a relationship? Enya, you should know what you want. Song Enya kept quiet at the side. Lu Jingtian could not stand it anymore. She stomped her feet and reminded her, stay here and wait for me to come back. With that, she walked toward Mu Yanqing. Song Enya pretended to stop her, but she did not stop her from leaving. Smiling inwardly, she turned around to chat with the others. In the venue, the lights were elegant and the lights were intertwined. Mu Yanqing and Lin Shuya were talking about something. Compared to the estrangement and aggressiveness they had when they first met, Lin Shuya was much more restrained now. When they talked about something interesting, she would even chime in with a smile. Mu Yanqing was greatly encouraged. She no longer had such a strong sense of rejection and enmity towards him. Being with him was actually a good start. Right now, the man had long forgotten about the unpleasantness between him and Song Enya that day. Hence, when she appeared in front of him in a fit of rage, he was still at a loss. Jingtian? He smiled and sized her up. You're here, too? Of course. I also received an invitation. Naturally, Lin Shuya did not have a good impression of this woman who had appeared out of nowhere. She sneered and did not give her any face. Oh. Why didn't I see your name on the invitation list? Chapter 23:53. She stood between the two and said to Lin Shuya, please leave us alone for a while. I have something to discuss with Brother Yanqing. Oh. Are you chasing me away? Lin Shuya naturally did not fall for this trick. Holding the wine glass, she raised a brow and said, I'm sorry, but I like to stand here. You have no right to obstruct me. All right, it's fine if you don't leave. Lu Jingtian could not wait for her to stay. She suddenly took out a box from her exquisite handbag and threw it in front of Mu Yanqing. She said coldly, Brother Yanqing, take a look for yourself. Look at what you've done. Mu Yanqing picked up the box nonchalantly, only to see that it was a pregnancy test kit. His eyelids twitched violently. What is this? You'll know what it is when you open it for yourself. Lu Jingtian crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking unforgiving and unreasonable. Mu Yanqing was a little annoyed at her untimely appearance, but in front of Lin Shuya, he naturally had to be gentlemanly. Hence, he said, let's talk at the side. Why? Brother Yancheng, are you feeling guilty right now? There are no outsiders here. Lin Shuya also took a look curiously, only to see that it was a pregnancy test kit. She furrowed her brows in confusion. What is this? Nothing. Mu Yancheng said perfunctorily, it's just something boring. Lu Jingtian could not take it anymore. She simply snatched the box from his hand and opened it. A pregnancy test kit fell on the table. Lin Shuya picked it up immediately, only to see two eye-catching lines on the pregnancy test kit. What is this? She glared at Mu Yancheng suspiciously. Lu Jingtian glared at Mu Yancheng and said fiercely, do you know that Enya is pregnant? She's pregnant with your child. Don't you intend to give an explanation? Pregnant? Lin Shuya laughed out of the blue. What does Song Enya's pregnancy have to do with him? Lu Jingtian glared at Mu Yancheng and said through gritted teeth, Brother Yancheng knows very well whether it has anything to do with him. Mu Yancheng's face froze for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure and said expressionlessly, Jingtian, don't fool around. I'm not fooling around. Lu Jingtian said a little angrily, Brother Yancheng, since you've made a mistake, as a man, shouldn't you? Or do you think that Enya is a cheap woman, so cheap that you don't deserve an explanation even if you defiled her? Jingtian. Mu Yancheng was also annoyed. Is there a need to talk about this in such an occasion? Of course. At the side, Lin Shuya suddenly sneered. I finally understand what's going on. She threw the pregnancy test kit at Mu Yancheng and glared at him coldly. Mu Yancheng, you're really interesting. With that, she's to leave. Mu Yancheng immediately reached out to grab her hand. Shuya, listen to me. Leave your explanation to your second uncle. With that, Lin Shuya left without looking back. Mu Yancheng looked on helplessly as Lin Shuya walked away. Suppressing his anger, he turned to look at Lu Jingtian and sneered through gritted teeth. Lu Jingtian, are you satisfied now? Chapter 23:54. Mu Yancheng was so angry that he blurted out, there are plenty of women I've impregnated. Do I have to give them an explanation? Or do I have to marry them one by one? Or be a concubine? You. Lu Jingtian's face flushed red with anger at his crooked words. Annoyed at her untimely appearance, Mu Yancheng did not hold back with his words. Besides, what can a pregnancy test kit prove? How can I be sure that the child in her stomach is mine? She sneered. Don't you know whether the child in her stomach is yours or not? Mu Yancheng sneered in return. Why should I know? This pregnancy test kit can only prove that she's pregnant, but it can't prove that the child in her stomach is mine. Lu Jingtian was dumbfounded for a long time. Suddenly, Song Enya's sarcastic voice came from behind. If you don't believe me, there's no harm in doing a paternity test with you. Startled, Mu Yancheng turned around, only to see Song Enya standing elegantly behind him in a gown. Her eyes were cold and disappointed. Brother Yancheng, don't you think that your words just now were too hurtful? Enya, he was a little surprised. Why are you here? Could it be? He glanced at the contraceptive kit on the table from the corner of his eye and suddenly realized something. Lu Jingtian came knocking on his door so aggressively. Could it be that Song Enya had instructed her to do so? That woman was really shrewd and ruthless. How could he not tell that Lu Jingtian was so indignant because of Song Enya's instigation? At this thought, he said coldly, so, you got Jingtian to ruin my show in public just to get a status from me and fan the flames between me and Miss Shuya? Get a status? Song Enya's body swayed. Clearly, she had suffered a blow. This was definitely not an act. Her heart was really pierced by this sentence. Get a status? She had always been such an arrogant person. Apart from Brother Mu, she did not care about any other man. Now, however, she was so lowly that she did not hesitate to use underhanded means to tie up a man and demand a marriage with no status. How did she fall to such a lowly state? At the side, Lu Jingtian grumbled in dissatisfaction. Calling her Miss Shuya is really nice. calling her so intimately. But why don't you think about it? Do you think she'll take a liking to you? I was just teasing you. Mu Yanqing was not in the mood to entertain her. Feeling a stab of pain in her heart, Song Enya mocked coldly, Brother Yanqing, you're such a disappointment. Since you already have Lin Shuya, why are you still provoking me? I'm innocent. Do you think I'm happy to have this child? She raised her voice slightly, and the surrounding guests heard her angry voice and turned their heads curiously. They looked around and whispered to each other. Isn't that the eldest daughter of the Song family? Why is she with young Master Yanqing? The two of them look a little ambiguous. Could it be? Mu Yanqing warily scanned his surroundings and immediately took a step forward to grab her hand. He then turned around and led her to a remote corner. Banquet hall, corridor, dead end. Very few people passed by. Chapter 23:55. Along the way, Song Enya kept struggling, but Mu Yanqing refused to let go of her. When they reached a corner, he suddenly pressed her against the wall and stared at her fiercely. He sneered expressionlessly, Song Enya, what tricks are you up to? Brother Yanqing, what do you mean by that? With tears in her eyes, Song Enya put on an innocent look. He said angrily, you don't have to put on such a pitiful look. Do you think I don't know that you're just putting on an act? Tell me. Where did the child come from? What do you mean? I'm warning you again, don't play tricks with me. Mu Yanqing pinched her face hard and gritted his teeth. Song Enya, it's not that I haven't played with women before. On the contrary, I'm very sensitive to women's bodies. If I really touched you, I'd have a reaction to your body. Also, even if we really did have sex that night, how long has it been since you announced that you're pregnant? You're just trying to blow this matter up so that I'll have no choice but to bow down to you and marry you because of public opinion, isn't that right? Song Enya was stunned. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she was still engrossed in her act. Brother Yanqing, you're shameless and despicable. It's clearly you're the one who bullied me. How can you accuse me like this? Do you think I want to be pregnant? I wish that this had never happened. How can you bear to falsely accuse me like this? Falsely accuse? Mu Yanqing's lips suddenly curved into a sinister smile. The next day, I went for a blood test. Song Enya was stunned and her expression froze. Guess what the test results were? Mu Yanqing leaned forward and whispered into her ear with a sneer, the wine I drank was laced with a knockout drug. That night, you were the only person I came into contact with. Unfortunately, something like that happened. Song Enya, how can I not suspect that you're trying to get close to me with ulterior motives? I don't know how this child in your stomach came about or whose it is. Don't even think about making use of me. Song Enya turned pale with fright. She did not expect him to be so astute as to go to the hospital for a checkup the next day after leaving the hotel. Actually, he did not suspect anything about his one-night stand with Song Enya that morning, but Jiang Qiming's appearance made him suspicious instead. There was no such coincidence. If something really happened between him and Song Enya in a drunken stupor, then how did Jiang Qiming obtain such accurate information, even down to the room number? He suspected that Song Enya had told Jiang Qiming about what had happened last night, but the helplessness and panic that the Missy had displayed at that time were clearly out of her wits. Even when he approached and comforted her, she was so frightened that she shrank into a corner and broke down emotionally. It was hard to imagine how she could tell Jiang Qiming the exact same thing and calmly tell her the hotel address and room number when she lost control of her emotions. It was self-contradictory. The appearance of such a coincidence was rather abrupt. Mu Yanqing calmed down. No matter how he thought about it, he could not shake the feeling that something was amiss. Chapter 23:56. Just as Jiang Qiming had said, although he was not as shrewd as Mu Yaja, he was not an ordinary person to be able to get to where he was. Hence, after leaving the hotel, he went to the hospital for a checkup. What made him suspicious was that after he woke up, his memory of everything that had happened after he was drunk was blurry. How could he be so drunk after drinking more than a bottle of red wine? Waking up with a splitting headache was not a normal reaction after a hangover. Besides, he had a good tolerance for alcohol, so he would not be so drunk that he could not even remember what had happened last night. The results of the checkup did not surprise him much. His blood test showed that there were traces of drugs in it, which meant that there was something wrong with the wine he drank last night. His first reaction was that Song Enya must have done something to his wine, which led to what happened next. He was too careless. He was not prepared for it. When he got this result, he did not go to find Song Enya to reason with her immediately. Firstly, he really did not know why she would use such a method that was close to ruining her reputation. It would be inappropriate for him to go there rashly. Secondly, he did not know what tricks she would play next to make use of him. Furthermore, he was saving some face for the Song family. Unexpectedly, not long after, this woman came looking for him with a pregnancy test kit and asked him to take responsibility. He couldn't help but wonder whose blood flowed in the child in her stomach. What's your motive? Just say it. At this point, what's the point of hiding? As soon as he said that, Song Enya burst into laughter all of a sudden. Motive? Did you plan all this so meticulously just for thrills and fun? He glared at her. Tell me, what's your motive? Seeing that her plan had been exposed, Song Enya did not show any anger or fear. Instead, she calmed down and said calmly, I want you to marry me. Dream on. Why should I marry you? Mu Yenqing asked without hesitation. That night, no matter what the truth is, someone saw you and me entering the hotel. There are also CCTV records. My mother also caught you on the spot. He. You're asking me why you should marry me? Because I'm pregnant with your child. Haha. The child in your stomach may not be mine. Naturally, Mu Yenqing did not believe her one-sided story. He only thought that she was fooling around outside and accidentally got pregnant. Thus, she coveted the status of the Mu family's young mistress and wanted to rely on him to enjoy wealth and glory. Naturally, he would not let her have her way. Song Enya suddenly laughed. Won't the truth be out once we check if the baby is yours? Mu Yenqing was stunned. He tried his best to search for even the slightest clue on her face, but seeing her solemn vow without the slightest bit of guilt, he found it hard to believe. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Song Enya continued, You're right. That night, nothing happened between us, but the child in my stomach was indeed yours. You can ask for a test or a certificate. As long as you don't hurt the child, I'm at your mercy. Chapter 2357. How did the child come about? The man was even more confused now. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to know is that you're the child's biological father, and there's an undeniable blood relationship between you. What the hell? He was so annoyed that he wanted to just walk away. Song Enya calmly said from behind, Mu Yenqing, wake up and be more rational. Right now, I need you, and you need me, too. Don't count on the marriage alliance with the Lins anymore. Who do you think you are? An arrogant woman like Lin Shuya will never take a fancy to you. Don't you just want to be the head of the Mu family? Marry me, and with the Song family's power, we'll be able to help you. As long as you marry me. Mu Yenqing's footsteps paused, but he did not look back. After a moment of silence, he strode away. Song Enya tried to pull herself together until he was gone. Her body went limp and she leaned against the wall with her arms hanging limply by her side. Ha ha. How can I be so shameless? Forget it. Since I've already taken this step, there's no turning back. I can only get what I want by hook or by crook. When she returned to the banquet hall, Mu Yenqing was nowhere to be seen. Seeing her return, Lu Jingtian anxiously went up to her and asked worriedly, Enya, what were you two doing just now? I saw Mu Yenqing leave in a huff. He seemed to be very angry. It's nothing. I just had a showdown with him. Song Enya turned around and smiled elegantly. Jingtian, if I become the young mistress of the Mu family, will you give me your blessings? Why, of course. Lu Jingtian was stunned. Have you really let go of Brother Mu, though? Don't you miss him anymore? Song Enya calmly replied, naturally, I'll let go of what I shouldn't be thinking about. Jing Tian, I'm no longer the old Song Enya. The old Song Enya is already dead. I know very well what I want now. Lu Jingtian was shocked. This woman has really changed. Mu Yanqing went straight back to the Mu residence and found Mu Linfeng in the study. He went into the study and locked the door. Then, he explained the matter in a concise and comprehensive manner. Second uncle, what should I do now? Mu Linfeng was momentarily stunned. Are you serious? She told me that directly. I'm also a little confused. That little girl from the Song clan actually did such a thing. Mu Linfeng did not doubt his nephew's words. Naturally, he did not believe that his nephew would mess with Song Enya. Mu Yanqing repeated himself. Second uncle, you must believe me, I really didn't do that. I know everything you said. What should we do now? Mu Yanqing was at a loss. Do I really have to marry her? Why? From what you've said, that girl from the Song family doesn't seem to be spouting nonsense. Her attitude was so firm, so the child in her belly must be yours. Now that technology is so advanced, it shouldn't be too difficult to confirm the child's identity. She must be fearless to say that. But I didn't do anything with her. There was none in the past, and there is none now. I don't even know where that child came from. Chapter 2358. After all, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Mu Linfeng suddenly thought of this matter. I heard that the last disappeared for a while some time ago. After she came back, a series of things happened. Perhaps, she used such means. Mu Yanqing was jolted awake. Only then did he realize that there was indeed such a loophole in the sperm bank. Second uncle, could it be that she took and went for an operation to get pregnant with my child through artificial insemination? Yes. That's possible. What should we do, then? Mu Yanqing was instantly in a terrible fix. I don't want to marry her. A woman like her, who was good at playing tricks, would be intimidating to all men. Isn't it the same no matter who you marry? Since this matter has already happened, I'm afraid that the Song family will come knocking on our door and make things difficult for both sides. It's better to consider this matter at length. No matter what, I'll listen to second uncle's arrangements. Mu Yanqing expressed his sincerity. Mu Linfeng nodded in satisfaction. You can go back, then. I still have a lot of things to worry about, so let's put this matter aside for now. Okay. Mu Yanqing stood up, nodded, and retreated. During the charity night, Lu Jingtian befriended a few producers and successfully obtained some good resources. One of them was a big movie that had recently started casting in full swing. This might be a good start for her. By the time she returned from an audition, it was already 11 p.m. When she passed by a pub, she parked her car at the side and asked a few of her best friends to have a drink. She sat in a private room on the second floor and quietly listened to the live broadcast. Just as she was feeling bored, she suddenly caught a glimpse of a dark figure slowly walking over from an unknown corner until it stopped beside her. Lu Jingtian's heart skipped a beat. She raised her head in alarm and suddenly met a pair of eyes that resembled black holes. A chilling, murderous aura assaulted her like invisible blades stabbing into her body. This person was not unfamiliar to her. Lu Jingtian recognized him at once. He was the man in black who had been tailing her that night. She was still wearing the hoodie she had worn that day. With the hood on her head, her facial features were hidden in the shadows. Under the dim light, it was impossible to see her silhouette clearly. However, one could vaguely see the hideous scars on her face. Coupled with such a ferocious and terrifying face and the terrifying aura on his body, there was no doubt that he was a malicious spirit that had come to claim his life. Ah! Lu Jingtian's face turned pale with fright. She opened her mouth to let out a scream, but it was quickly silenced. She lowered her head in a daze and looked at the man's outstretched hand. A sharp dagger poked out from his sleeve and was pressed against her waist. Don't call me that. That person's voice was extremely cold and heavy, like the sea in the middle of the night, incomparably cold. Due to this kind of deterrence, she didn't dare to make a sound for a while. You want. What do you want? Lu Jingtian's lips quivered as she asked with a pale face. The man in black smiled and sat down directly opposite her. I'm just here to catch up with an old friend. Why? Am I not welcome? Lu Jingtian swallowed hard and asked with a sobbing voice, You. Who exactly are you? What do you want? Chapter 23:59. After she finished speaking, she slowly took off her hat, revealing an extremely terrifying face that was riddled with scars. Lu Jingtian did not recognize her at first, but when she saw the scars on her face, which seemed to have been inflicted by a blade, her heart skipped a beat and her expression changed drastically. Don't be *tch. Let's see how you're going to attract bees and butterflies after I cut your face. Don't. Memories came crashing down on her like a stormy sea. Lu Jingtian fell back into her seat in horror. It's you, do you recognize me? Lu Jingtian trembled in fright. She could not even remember the other's name. She only knew that the scars on her face were all caused by this woman. After that incident, this woman seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Her father had settled everything, and she thought that everything was over. She did not expect this woman to suddenly appear. Could it be that she's here for revenge? At this thought, Lu Jingtian could not help but feel her hair stand on end. She clenched her fists tightly as she broke out in a cold sweat. It seems that Miss Lu isn't stupid. You've seen clearly who caused these scars on my face. Her words undoubtedly made Lu Jingtian even more restless. In contrast to her sitting on pins and needles, Yun Na was the opposite. She was calm and composed as she sat at the side. Slowly, she took out a bottle of transparent liquid from her pocket and poured it into a goblet. She gently swirled the liquid around but did not drink it. Her pair of cold eyes shot daggers at Lu Jingtian as if she wanted to gouge out her flesh. I'm sorry. Lu Jingtian was so frightened that tears rolled down her cheeks. Clenching her fists tightly, she said in a trembling voice, That time. I didn't mean it. I didn't really want to disfigure you. I was just in a fit of anger, so. Apologize? The corners of Yun Na's mouth twitched, yet there wasn't any expression on her face. She was neither shocked, furious, nor happy, and it caused one's hair to stand on end instead. Truly interesting. You destroyed my appearance and caused me to be reduced to such a state. Can a light apology really make up for everything? Can a simple apology restore my face to how it was before? How laughable. She hurriedly replied, I'll compensate you in any way you want. Yun Na remained indifferent when she heard this. From the beginning until the end, her cold and indifferent gaze descended onto the liquid in the goblet, and her expression didn't change in the slightest. Lu Jingtian panicked even more as she hurriedly asked, Is 1 million enough? 1 million? Yun Na's lips curled up as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. How cheap. Lu Jingtian also felt that the price was too low, so she asked, How about 10 million? Is 10 million enough to make it up to you? If it's not enough, as long as you ask, I'll definitely gather enough for you. Miss Lu is so generous. Yun Na suddenly raised her eyes. Her gaze sharpened as she raised her hand and splashed the liquid in the wine glass onto her face. Lu Jingtian shrieked and struggled on the spot in fright. Ah! What is this? Sulfuric acid? Sulfuric acid. She subconsciously thought that Yun Na had splashed some concentrated sulfuric acid on her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. However, after struggling for a while, she did not feel the intense corrosive pain that she had expected. Only then did she awkwardly calm down. She touched the slightly sticky liquid on her face and did not know what it was. In any case, it was not sulfuric acid as she had imagined. Chapter 23:60. Lu Jingtian heaved a sigh of relief and calmed down. Sulfuric acid? Yun Na laughed. If you ask me, even if I splash 10 bottles of sulfuric acid on you, it won't be enough to vent the anger in my heart. You. Calm down, Lu Jingtian tried to comfort her, but she did not know if she was comforting the person in front of her or herself. She naively thought that since the other party had found her, there should be room for negotiation. Since she could calmly sit in front of her and expose her identity, she probably would not do anything risky. Besides, although she was in a private room on the second floor and there was no one else around, it was still a public place. With so many people downstairs, she would definitely not do anything rash. Lu Jingtian suppressed her anger and asked humbly, "What do I have to do for you to forgive me?" "Forgive you?" Yun Na pondered for a moment before suddenly taking out a pack of cigarettes. She took one out and put it in her mouth. Then, she casually picked up a Zippo windproof lighter and lit it. "Let me think about it." Lu Jingtian looked at her in trepidation. She looked at the cigarette in the other's mouth, which was flickering, and then at the lighter in her hand. She was wearing a pair of black gloves, which could vaguely be seen on her wrist, covering a long scar. It seemed to be cut by a metal hook, which was why she was using the gloves to cover it. The flame of the lighter flickered and swayed, just like her flustered heartbeat at this moment. "Why don't?" Yun Na suddenly approached her and smiled sinisterly. "How about using your face to exchange for it?" What do you mean?" Lu Jingtian's eyes widened as she asked nervously. Yun Na stood up and pretended to leave as she played with the lighter. Her gaze followed the other's movements as her heart beat like thunder. Yun Na took a deep puff of her cigarette and suddenly stopped playing with it. She lowered her head and looked at her coldly. "Lu Jingtian, from tonight onward, our grudges are settled." Just as Lu Jingtian was feeling perplexed by her nonsensical words, she saw that the other had already turned around and was about to leave. Just as she was about to calm down, she saw Yun Na make a move. The lighter in her hand flew toward her in a strange parabola. "I'm returning it to you." She threw out these words and left. Lu Jingtian yelped in shock. She subconsciously reached out to catch the lighter, but the moment she did so, she retracted her hand from the heat of the flame. The lighter landed on her body. When the open flame came into contact with her body, which was drenched in an unknown liquid, it ignited unstoppably and engulfed her in raging flames. Ah! Ah! By the time Lu Jingtian came to her senses, she had already sprung up from her seat and flailed her arms about. Little did she know that the more she flailed, the bigger the fire became. The pain of the raging fire burning his flesh gnawed at his heart. "Help! Help! 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 Ah! Ah! Ah!" Yun Na ignored the burning man behind her. She put on her hat, stuffed her hands into her pockets, and walked down the stairs leisurely. Without looking back, she disappeared through the door. At this moment, loud and noisy music suddenly came from downstairs. Chapter 2361. The people on the dance floor were waving their hands and twisting their bodies to the music. The DJ, with his headphones on, hit the disc, and the high music pushed the atmosphere in the bar to its climax. "Help! Ah! Ah! It's so hot! It's so hot! It's so hot!" She struggled frantically, but no matter how she screamed for help, it was all in vain. Her cries were drowned out by the crowd's clamor. Her heart was shrouded in fear and despair. She rolled on the spot for a while, but she still could not put out the fire on her body. The fire burned her clothes and skin all over her body. The smell of burnt skin assailed her nostrils. "Don't, who's going to save me?" Lu Jingtian cried and screamed as she rolled back and forth. In the end, she accidentally rolled down the stairs. Rumble, the strange sound quickly attracted some people's attention. Some people were sitting closer to the stairs, so they quickly noticed the strange movement coming from the stairs. When they looked over, they were immediately shocked by the shocking scene. Fire! Fire! At first, they could not see clearly what the fire was. They only knew that it was on fire, but when someone took a closer look, he exclaimed, "There's someone inside." "Ah! I saw it, too, she's on fire." Someone, come quickly. Get some water. At this point, Lu Jingtian was engulfed by the fire. Like a ball of fire, she rolled down the stairs and knocked her head on the steps. She fainted for a moment, but the pain of being burned by the fire soon woke her up and she howled wantonly in despair. Save! Save me! Save me! No one responded. The atmosphere in the bar was at its climax. A small number of people were alarmed, but it did not attract much attention. A man cried for help for a long time, but no one responded. Most people were numbed by the alcohol and the loud music, so they did not hear his voice, which was drowned out by the rhythm and drums. It was only when the fire grew bigger and bigger that the wooden walls were ablaze and smoke spread that more and more people noticed this scene. It's on fire. It's on fire. Run. The DJ, who was standing on the stage, saw this scene. He immediately cut to the music, put on his headset, and called the bar's manager. The manager hurried over and immediately tried to calm down to evacuate the crowd. Some customers, who were still sober, were frightened by the fire and ran for the door in panic. For a moment, the scene was in chaos. The crowd swarmed to the door like a swarm of bees, like an ebbing tide. 10 minutes later, the manager came with a foam fire extinguisher and walked to the fire. The fire extinguisher had been in disrepair for a long time, and the bolt was rusty, so the manager could not pull it off. Quick! Quick! Call the police. Call the ambulance. 10 minutes later, the police drove over. At this moment, the fire had been extinguished and the crowd had been evacuated. The huge bar was empty. All the staff stood 3 meters away from the scene, looking at the corner of the stairs, a group of charred people. No one dared to approach. Chapter 2362. The manager of the bar immediately said, "Yes, yes. They're not there yet? They're not there yet." At this time, the road at the entrance should be blocked. What's going on? The manager of the bar was also at a loss. He said helplessly, "I don't know. I'm also confused now. I heard from the staff that someone was on fire. I immediately evacuated the crowd and organized the staff to put out the fire, but the fire was very big. They only put it out 5 minutes ago, and the person is unconscious. We didn't dare to go near her. No one touched her." The police frowned, feeling that the situation was very strange. He took a look at the victim's condition. Her entire body was charred black. It was a shocking sight. How big was the fire to be able to burn her to such a state? Soon, the ambulance rushed over and hurriedly carried her to the burn hospital. Yun Shishir was on night watch at the hospital. She sat in the corridor and quietly read the script that Qin Zhou had sent over. This script was a new drama that Qin Zhou had accepted for her. It was an urban idol drama that was adapted from a best-selling novel. This time, she was directly chosen as the female lead by the director and investors and landed in the cast. The producer, Fang Zheng, had taken a fancy to her current popularity. In addition, her temperament and appearance were compatible with the female lead. Hence, he had directly decided to cast her. Before this, the producer and Qin Zhou had discussed and agreed on the remuneration. Then, Qin Zhou directly sent the script over. Yun Shishir knew that such an opportunity did not come easily. She had just debuted and did not have many works. However, with The Green Apple, she became famous overnight. The movie became a dark horse among the many movies that were released during the Lunar New Year. She was proud of herself and unexpectedly won the box office crown. Other than the box office appeal of Lin Fengtian and Gu Xingze, as the female lead, Yun Shishir's superb acting skills could not go unnoticed. Her innocent appearance and exciting performance were remarkable. It had attracted her a lot of popularity and many die-hard fans. This was not the only reason why she was directly chosen this time. The current entertainment industry had a bad atmosphere. Many television dramas were crudely made and the so-called sky-high investments were actually made. Most of the money went into the pockets of the lead actors. In order to earn more money, some female celebrities had to deal with several production teams at the same time. As a result, the results of the filming were inferior. There was even a period drama that had special effects throughout the entire process. Other than a few positive scenes, most of the scenes were done by stunt doubles. With The Green Apple, Yoon Shusher shot to fame overnight. At the same time, her professionalism won her over in the industry. In addition, Hwan Yu had spent a lot of resources on her. She made a stunning appearance at the Fashion Week and won so many awards at the film festival that her hands went limp. She became a popular starlet and a popular idol. Chin Zhou's pay was 500,000 per episode. Compared to Yang Mi's 1 million per episode and Lin Ji's 800,000 per episode, this was a fair price. Although Yoon Shusher only had one movie released, the investors also took a fancy to her role in Lethal Beauty, which was about to be broadcasted. It was bound to bring her popularity to another level, and her potential was limitless. It was said that Chin Zhou had also heard a rumor. Initially, Lin Ji had taken a liking to this movie. She was willing to lower her salary and even used a lot of methods to snatch the role from her. Even after using a lot of connections, she still couldn't get the female lead role. Chapter 2363. The director insisted that the female lead role must be played by Yoon Shusher. Because of this, Lin Ji was very unhappy. However, on second thought, the scenes of Lethal Beauty had already been completed and it was in post-production. Because it was a long-running drama, they decided to broadcast it while it was being produced. The weekly drama won the golden egg of a first-tier satellite channel. 3 episodes were broadcast consecutively every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Lin Ji thought to herself that Yoon Shusher's popularity might not rise even if she played the evil female lead role in the drama. On the other hand, she might be able to reach a higher level with Lethal Beauty. When that time came, she would not have to worry about not getting good scripts. Yoon Shusher read the script and heard from Chin Zhou that the male lead was in contact with Gu Xingze. The supporting male lead was tailor-made for Hua Jin, so he had already been confirmed. Gu Xingze. He had been banned for a while. Apparently, Hwan Yu had lifted the ban. When Yoon Shusher heard the news, she felt very conflicted. When she thought about how Gu Xingze would have to act with him in the same scene, she could not help but feel awkward. Chin Zhou said that the reason why the investors chose Gu Xingze was because of the popularity of The Lucky Couple on Weibo. Many movie fans had been poisoned by The Green Apple and were hoping that the golden couple would work together again. Lin Ji and Gu Xingze had formed an imaginary couple called The Love Diary. Although they had only recorded a few episodes, many fans supported them online. However, because of the ban, the show did not continue. After that, the other imaginary couples were mediocre. Movie fans strongly hoped that the lucky couple would appear on screen again. After the ban was lifted, the production team contacted Yoon Shusher and said that they wanted to continue recording the show. However, Yoon Shusher politely declined. Therefore, the investors had their eyes on the potential market of the lucky couple and were now negotiating with Gu Xingze. The influence of The Green Apple was not to be underestimated. Although the movie had already been taken offline, its popularity was still there. This gave Lin Fengtian a big surprise. After intense voting online, Yoon Shusher and Gu Xingze became the hottest on-screen couple. Yoon Shusher focused on the script, tucking her bangs behind her ears from time to time. Shusher. When Yoon Shusher heard someone call her name, she looked up in confusion and saw Ji Lin looking at her in surprise from the end of the corridor. Director Ji. Yoon Shusher, who was in the man's eyes, was surprised. Ji Lin smiled. It's so late and you're still in the hospital? Keeping vigil for Dad? She nodded and asked, why are you here? Something happened to one of my artists, so I'm here to deal with it. What happened? Ji Lin paused for a moment before shaking his head. I received a call saying that Lu Jingtian was injured in a fire, so I rushed over. She's still in the operating room now, and her condition isn't optimistic. Burned by fire? Yoon Shusher furrowed her brows in surprise. How did this happen? Did something happen? Ji Lin shook his head, looking equally confused. I was resting at home when the police called and told me to inform Jingtian's family that she's in the hospital with burns. I'll have to go to the police station later to find out what happened. Chapter 2364. It was too strange. It did not seem to be a peaceful year recently. First, her father was splashed with sulfuric acid, followed by Lu Jingtian being burned and sent to the emergency room. It was really unbelievable. After exchanging some pleasantries, Ji Lin left in a hurry. Yun Shishir sat on the bench, no longer in the mood to read the script. She stood at the door of the ward and stared blankly at Yun Yecheng, who was lying on the bed, with furrowed brows. Gong Jia quickly rushed over. According to their agreement, he would take over at 1 in the morning. Yun Shishir would go back to rest and take over at 9 in the morning. Someone would take care of her during the day, so she did not have to worry. At 1:00, Gong Jia rushed over with supper for her and reminded her to go back and rest early. Yun Shishir nodded stiffly. Just as she was about to leave, Gong Jia pulled her back. Wait. HM. Yun Shishir turned around, looking confused. What's wrong? Gong Jia was worried. You look absent-minded today. Is there something on your mind? Yun Shishir was stunned for a moment before replying, nothing. I just accepted a script and am immersed in the plot. Gong Jia smiled. You're so dedicated to your work. Not at all. He walked up to her and planted a kiss on her forehead. Good night kiss. He only had this opportunity because Mu Yaja was not around. It was really not easy. Yun Shishir smiled. Gong Jia reminded her again. It's already so late. Put the script aside and go back to sleep early, okay? Okay. I know. Thank you for your hard work. It's not hard at all to serve my sister. Yun Shishir smiled and then turned to leave the floor where Yun Yecheng was. She did not return to the hotel to rest immediately, though. Instead, she went to the emergency room. Lu Jingtian's family members had already rushed over on the bench outside the emergency room. 7 to 8 of them sat there with heavy expressions. A middle-aged man impatiently paced back and forth outside the ward, looking extremely anxious. Judging from his flustered expression, he must be Lu Jingtian's father. What the hell is going on? Our Tian. How did she get burned out of nowhere? The 2 young girls beside her hurriedly comforted her. Auntie, don't worry. Jingtian will be fine. Heaven helps the worthy. God will definitely bless her. Tian called me and told me that she wanted to have a drink with you guys. Were you there when it happened? No, another woman said. When we arrived, the bar had already been cleared. There were people guarding the door, so we couldn't get in. We thought that something had happened. Just as we were about to leave, we saw the ambulance and found out what had happened. We saw a charred person being carried out of the bar, but we didn't recognize that it was Tian. It was only when no one picked up the phone that I heard from the bar's employees that the person who was burned was a TV star that I realized it. I chased after the ambulance and rushed to the hospital. The person was already in the emergency room. The strangest thing is that there was no fire in the bar. I heard that when Tian was found, her body was on fire, but there was no fire anywhere else. I don't know why. Lu Jingtian's mother was even more heartbroken when she heard this. Chapter 2365. Even if she's saved, what can we do? How is Tian going to face the fire in the future? Tian loves to look pretty. If she's disfigured, I can't imagine it. Lu Jingtian's mother was deeply worried. Her eyes were red and swollen. It was obvious that she had been crying. Plastic surgery is so advanced nowadays. Even if she's disfigured, she can still undergo skin grafting. I heard from the doctor that Tian's body was badly burned, so she definitely won't be able to keep her looks. I'm just worried that there won't be a single unscathed spot on her body. Yun Shishir furrowed her brows. Just as she was in a daze, she vaguely noticed a flash of light outside the window. She walked to the window and looked downstairs, only to find a swarm of media reporters squatting at the hospital entrance with their cameras raised. They were trying to break through the security and sneak into the hospital to report first-hand news. Such reporters had a keen sense of smell. When they heard that something had happened to Jing Tian, they swarmed over. How scary! How could these reporters be so indifferent when she was still in the emergency room? Now that the reporters were blocking the entrance, she could not leave rashly. If she was caught by them, she did not know what these unscrupulous media would report with additional details. Yun Shusher returned to the ward. Gong Jia was a little surprised to see her back. Didn't you go back to the hotel? There are reporters outside the hospital. I can't get out for a while. Reporters? Gong Jia frowned. He suddenly stood up and walked to the window to take a look. He was shocked by the terrifying scene at the entrance. Why are there so many reporters? There are probably reporters squatting at the back entrance, too. The entire hospital is surrounded by them now. Gong Jia was puzzled. Where did so many reporters come from? Did something happen? Yun Shusher replied, an artist from our company was burned and is now in the emergency room. I heard that the burn area is very large. Burned by the fire? Gong Jia was not concerned about this matter. He raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled. It seems that you won't be able to leave tonight. It's good to accompany you. Do you want supper? Gong Jia asked. I bought some supper. I forgot to ask you. Yun Shusher glanced at it. Gong Jia had bought some beef vermicelli soup and fried dumplings. At this time, besides barbecue, there was only these. Alas, when she saw the charred dumplings in the packaging, she was reminded of the tragic scene of Lu Jingtian being burned by the fire. She lost all her appetite and felt nauseous for some reason. I'm not hungry. Not hungry? Gong Jia teased. Could it be that you're not eating because you're trying to lose weight? Yun Shusher made up an excuse and said, I gained 2 pounds during the new year. Of course, I can't eat whatever I want. I thought elder sister had the physique of not getting fat no matter how much she eats. So, you're also afraid of getting fat. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. Yun Shusher sat up on the bench and held the script, but she couldn't read it at all. She was in a daze for a while. Her sixth sense told her that there must be a connection between the two incidents, which seemed unrelated, between Yun Yecheng and Lu Jingtian. However, it was just her sixth sense. She could not find any evidence or clues. It was just her sixth sense. At 3 a.m, Ji Lin returned to the hospital. Lu Jingtian was still in the emergency room. He asked about the situation and went to the floor where Yun Shusher was. When Yun Shusher saw him, she immediately walked over worriedly and asked about the situation. Did you find out anything at the police station? Chapter 2366. The police retrieved the surveillance footage, but there's a blind spot in the private room on the second floor where Jing Tian was. At the time of the incident, we could only see her on fire, but we don't know how it happened. However, there's a suspicious person in the surveillance footage. When the fire broke out, that person came down from upstairs and casually left the bar. The police suspect that this incident has something to do with that person, so they're still investigating. How did she catch on fire? After investigating the scene, we came to the conclusion that Jing Tian was splashed with flammable liquid, and we also found the remains of a lighter. Ji Lin gave her a rough overview of the situation. After investigating the scene, the police concluded that the fire was not a coincidence based on the fragments of her clothes and the remains of the lighter found at the scene. They found a large amount of ethanol and the remnants of the flammable liquid on the fragments of her clothes. The lighter was a Zippo lighter. An open flame directly ignited the ethanol, and the fire quickly spread throughout her body. Ethanol? Yes. When exposed to an open flame, it will burn rapidly. Coupled with the fact that she was wearing black stockings, the fire spread even faster. Yun Shusher was quite taken aback by this. Isn't this murder? We can't conclude yet, but the suspicion is very high. What about that person? Yun Shusher asked anxiously, did the surveillance footage capture the person's face? Ji Lin shook his head. No. That person was wearing a cap, so we couldn't see anything clearly. He was dressed very plainly and didn't have any distinctive features. If he were thrown into a crowd, he wouldn't attract attention even if he walked right in front of you. Right now, the police can only collect fingerprints from the scene. If we can get any clues from the lighter, we might be able to make some progress. Yun Shishir nodded. What about Lu Jingtian? Is she still in the emergency room? Yes. He paused for a moment before saying, she's still in the emergency room. We don't know if she'll survive. Is it that serious? Yun Shishir was reminded of Yun Yeching's condition in the emergency room. Every minute and every second was torturous. It's too cruel. If it's really murder, why use such a cruel method? It must be very painful to be burned like that. The doctor said that 85% of Jingtian's body was burned. This is just a preliminary estimate, it could be more. 85%. What did it mean to have such a large area of burns? He had already been burnt to a crisp. Yun Shishir shuddered at the thought of the cruel acts of the murderer. Ji Lin said, when I came in, I saw a lot of reporters waiting at the door. I'm afraid you won't be able to leave tonight. Those reporters are always the first to hear the news. The competition in the media industry is fierce now. Coupled with the fact that the market has been declining over the years, for the sake of traffic and click-through rates, those reporters are dying to get first-hand reports. They're not giving up. Ji Lin added, Shishir, you have to be careful too. The company will also send more people to protect you. I have to rush back to the company right away to hold a meeting. Now that Jingtian is in such a situation, we have to do some public relations as soon as possible. Yes. Be careful on the road. After Ji Lin left, Yun Shishir sat on the bench with a gloomy expression. No one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 2367. After Ji Lin left, Yun Shishir sat on the bench with a gloomy look on her face. No one knew what she was thinking about. Seeing this, Gong Jia quietly picked up a fried dumpling and fed it to her. Yun Shishir was shocked. Suppressing her discomfort, she swallowed the fried dumpling and glared at him. Hey! What are you doing? What are you thinking about? Yun Shishir pursed her lips but did not say anything. Gong Jia rubbed her head. She's just an irrelevant person. There's no need to let your imagination run wild because of her. I just have a bad feeling. Don't let your imagination run wild. Gong Jia pulled her into his arms and patted her shoulder gently. Don't worry. With me around, no one will hurt you. Shao Jia, yes? Do you remember that I mentioned to you that I have an adoptive mother? She and my father have a daughter called Yun Na. I don't really remember her name, but I heard you mention it. After a pause, Gong Jia was a little surprised. Why did you mention her all of a sudden? Last year, she and her adoptive mother went missing. Gong Jia's eyelids twitched violently. Not long ago, Yu mentioned this matter to him as well. That was when Yun Yeching was first sent to the hospital. Yu had once revealed to him about Li Qin and Yun Na. That little girl also had a gloomy look on her face. The disappearance of these two people was Yu's doing. Although he did not mention how he got rid of the mother and daughter, he only said that he threw them into the sea like trash. The process was very detailed, but he did not know the details. At the end of last year, Li Qin's body was salvaged from the sea by fishermen. Her body had been submerged in the sea for a long time, and fishes had pecked at it. Yu admitted that he felt a strong sense of guilt. Back then, when he gave the order to throw them into the sea, he was in a state of uncontrollable emotions. Therefore, he had already forgotten what kind of demonic barrier he was under at that time, to actually be so ruthless. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't remember what he had said or done. Yu didn't know that at that time, there was another dark personality hidden in his body. It was hatched after a long period of darkness in his childhood. That incident was just a fuse that triggered the darkest side of his personality. What he did was no longer within his control. He didn't know that he had such a cruel and callous side to him. He still had lingering fears. At that time, when he found out from Li Dongxiang about what Yun Na had done to his mommy and how she had persecuted her, Yu was instantly enraged and completely turned evil. However, when he realized that such a terrifying demon was hiding in his body, he could not help but feel uneasy. "Uncle, is it possible for a person to escape after being thrown into the sea?" Yu had asked. He vaguely suspected that Yun Yeqing's incident had something to do with Yun Na. It was not because there was evidence to go by. It was because of his subconscious sixth sense that Yun Na was not dead. She was still alive in this world, lurking in some dark corner, and taking revenge on them one by one. He did not suspect Yun Na at first. However, that day, when Yu was accompanying Yun Yeqing in the hospital, he actually vaguely dreamed of Yun Na's name when he was unconscious. Nana, don't, stop. Chapter 2368. Yun Yeqing's vocal cords were damaged, so it was difficult for him to make a sound. Perhaps it was because of a nightmare that he kept calling out Yun Na's name in his dreams, but his hoarse voice woke Yun Tianyu up. Other than this possibility, he could not think of anyone who would do such a thing to his father. Hence, Yu had been secretly investigating this matter for the past few days. Mu Yaja also instructed the police to investigate Yun Na's whereabouts as soon as possible. Before this, Yun Na had been registered as a missing person, but once she was listed as a missing person, it proved that the police were helpless and could not find any trace of her. There had been no news of her all this while. News of Lu Jingtian's injury spread like wildfire. More and more media outlets gathered outside the hospital to follow up on the incident. Television stations, the internet, and media outlets were all reporting on the progress of this matter. While Yun Shishir was browsing Weibo, Lu Jingtian's burn had become the top trending topic. However, the hospital was heavily guarded, and Lu Jingtian's father was not someone to be trifled with. With his daughter's safety unknown, how could he allow those hateful media outlets to disturb him? Hence, he hired bodyguards to guard the entrance. Not even a fly or a mosquito could enter, let alone a living person. Many media outlets' methods were impossible to guard against. Some even disguised themselves as patients or family members to sneak into the hospital. He also sent people to set up a perimeter a few meters away from the operating room to prevent anyone from getting close. Huanyu's artist, Lu Jingtian, accidentally set herself on fire on the night of February 16, causing 85% of her body to be burned. She is still in the emergency room and is still in critical condition. According to the doctor, her vocal cords are severely damaged and she can't speak. There's a possibility that she might lose her voice. On the night of the incident, the scene captured by the bar's surveillance cameras has already spread on various major websites and entered everyone's sight. It's been 3 hours since the incident, and Lu Jingtian is still in the emergency room. There are endless discussions about this accident, and all kinds of speculations are coming one after another. Some netizens suspect that there are many suspicious points in this matter and that it might not be an accident. Reporters rushed to the bar where the incident happened and interviewed the bar's manager. He said that, according to the surveillance footage, Lu Jingtian came to the bar alone at around 11 p.m. and went straight to the private room on the second floor. As the private room was in a blind spot to the surveillance cameras, it was impossible to know what happened within 20 minutes of the incident. About 15 minutes later, the surveillance footage showed Lu Jingtian rolling and struggling on the floor with her whole body on fire. No one in the bar, though. It was only after 10 minutes of her cries for help were heard that her cries for help, and the fire was finally extinguished by the staff. Yun Shishir kept flipping through the reports until a video popped up. She hesitated for a moment before clicking on the video. In the video, she saw a flash of fire coming from a private room on the second floor. A person covered in flames fell at the staircase, rolling and struggling. At the same time, in the bottom left corner, a man in black casually left the bar. Yun Shishir was taken aback. Chapter 2369. Imagine a normal adult with a person on fire behind him, screaming and struggling for help. In the hall on the first floor, perhaps there were many young people who were immersed in the moving music on the dance floor, forgetting themselves and not noticing the abnormal situation on the second floor. Given how close this person was to Lu Jingtian, it was only natural for him to notice the fire behind him at such a short distance. However, He walked down the stairs calmly and left the bar calmly. It was this extraordinary calmness that made people shudder. This matter, it's related to him. For some reason, this thought popped up in Yun Shishir's mind. This person is too suspicious. The complete CCTV footage was still circulating online. Yun Shishir clicked on it and saw that from the time Lu Jingtian walked into the bar to the time the fire started, only about 20 minutes had elapsed. Although the seat was a blind spot, Yun Shishir clearly noticed that the fire started all of a sudden and did not burn gradually. Ji Lin said that the police found traces of alcohol on the pieces of clothing at the scene. Alcohol? What exactly? This was not an accident. It was premeditated murder. Perhaps it was not murder. The person did not want to kill Lu Jingtian but let her suffer the pain of disfigurement for the rest of her life? Yun Shishir's eyes lit up as she furrowed her brows. In her shock, she could not help but loosen her grip on the phone, causing it to fall to the ground with a thud. By the time she regained her senses, she was already drenched in cold sweat. Yun Yecheng, Lu Jingtian, Yun Yecheng. Her father and Lu Jingtian were attacked one after another in almost the same way. It was definitely not a coincidence that they were attacked in the same way. The method of the crime was similar, and that person did not come with the intention of murder, but cruelly wanted to inflict unbearable pain on them. It had only been a few days since Yun Yecheng was attacked by acid, and Lu Jingtian had also met with an accident. There seemed to be no connection between the two, but she keenly sensed the similarities between them. This person's hatred for the two was monstrous. Yun Shishir immediately recalled the CCTV footage that was released by the media. On the night of Huan Yu's annual gala, Yun Na was forced to the corridor by Lu Jingtian. Her face was then slashed with an eyebrow shaver and disfigured. Yun Na must have hated Lu Jingtian to the core. Similarly, Yun Na also harbored hatred toward Yun Yecheng. It's Yun Na? A shocking thought popped up in her mind. Yun Shishir's breathing became uneven as she sucked in a breath. D****. I should have thought of this. The connection between the two is Yun Na's. Oh, no, flustered, Yun Shishir's phone. 10 seconds later, the call was connected, and Yuyu's sleepy voice came through. Mommy, she was relieved to hear her son's voice. Yuyu, are you sleeping? Where's Daddy? He's in the study. Yuyu asked curiously, Mommy, it's so late. Why are you calling me? Is something the matter? Nothing. I'm just worried about you and Xiao Yichen. Is the balcony door locked from the inside when you sleep at night? It's all locked. Then. Chapter 2370. The gas has been turned off, and the door to the back garden has been locked. Mommy, don't worry. Okay, that's good. Yun Shishir finally calmed down. Mommy, are you still in the hospital? Yes. Yuyu said gently, now that Grandpa's condition has stabilized, Mommy doesn't have to work too hard. Rest early. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Yun Shishir held the phone tightly as her breathing gradually calmed down. Gong Jia walked over and handed a cup of coffee over. Yun Shishir took it, but her gaze was a little absent-minded. Sister, what's wrong? Why do you look uneasy? Yun Shishir said quietly, it hasn't been peaceful recently, and it's making me feel flustered. Gong Jia was silent for a moment. Thinking that it was because she still had lingering fears after seeing the man who had been burned to such a state, he said, in this world, unfortunate things happen every day. Every minute, every second, there are countless accidents happening. Sometimes, life is strong, and sometimes it's fragile. It can't withstand a single blow, and in a short moment, it's gone. And living is not to fear the end of the world, but to welcome tomorrow. In those war-torn areas, the flames of war were incessant, and smoke filled the air. Many refugees lived under the ruins of the bombardment, and it was difficult for them to survive. Especially in African countries. When he was young, he had followed his father's team to Uganda. For more than 20 years, the rebel army of Uganda, the Lord's Resistance Army, had been in constant conflict with the government army in order to overthrow the government. He had watched as a little girl crawled into a pile of corpses to search for food, and finally died in a grenade attack. He had also seen those refugees who had lost their homes shovel the soil on the ground into their mouths. This world was unfair from the moment you opened your eyes. The weak were prey to the strong. Instead of fearing the darkness, it was better to become stronger and more dazzling. Only then could you protect the people you wanted to protect. Shao Jia, it's rare to hear such profound words come out of your mouth. Yun Shishir could not help laughing. Gong Jia muttered unhappily, you're the one who's always treating me like a child. Who asked you to be so mischievous when you were young? You've already left a deep impression on me. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, but each had their own thoughts. Gong Jia knew that Yun Shishir had something on her mind, but she did not mention it to him. This was because, in her eyes, he was still a child. Moreover, she did not understand his identity and background. She did not know that the Gong family was very powerful. The Gong family was cruel, which was why he didn't want to mention the Gong family. Gong Jia silently glanced at Yun Shishir. Seeing that she was troubled, he narrowed his eyes. Sis, you haven't changed at all. Gong Jia leaned back. Do you remember when you were young? You were wronged outside and came back crying. When you reached the door, you wiped away your tears and entered. You never told me what you were wronged or what was on your mind. Yun Shishir pursed her lips. You were so impulsive when you were young. If I told you, wouldn't you beat the child who provoked me until he was crippled? So what? Chapter 2371. Yun Shishir was momentarily at a loss for words. Gong Jia's lips suddenly curled into a smile. You're always keeping your worries to yourself, it makes you feel lonely. With that, he turned his head away and took a sip of his coffee with a deep look in his eyes. Yun Shishir lowered her head in a daze, at a loss for what to do. Early in the morning, Lu Jingtian was still not out of danger. Many media outlets had already published their articles online. Yun Shishir browsed through them one by one. Morning news: Huanyu Entertainment's artist, Lu Jingtian, suffered serious burns in a bar accident. A reporter at the hospital reported that Huanyu's famous actress, Lu Jingtian, suffered burns all over her body in an accident at a bar last night. She was sent to the burn hospital for treatment. According to preliminary reports, her life is still in danger due to the large area and severity of the burns. Qingguang Entertainment, Lu Jingtian's burn area is 85%. Her life is still in danger and she might be disfigured. Currently, the famous actress is still in the intensive care unit. According to the bar manager, Lu Jingtian came to the bar alone and went straight to the second floor. 20 minutes later, she rolled down the stairs, covered in flames, and struggled to call for help. It was reported that she was wearing a chemical fiber outfit at the time of the accident. The fire spread quickly. The bar's emergency response was not timely. By the time the fire was extinguished, she had already lost consciousness. Starlight News, bar responds to Lu Jingtian's self-immolation incident, denies responsibility, and says that it was because the actress was in a surveillance camera's blind spot. There were no other customers on the second floor at the time, so the fire was not immediately discovered. The bar manager responded that the actress might have been playing with a lighter when the lighter leaked, but the fire spread all over her body in a few seconds. The bar staff put out the fire immediately, evacuated the crowd, and called the police for an ambulance. Huanyu's official Weibo was silent, and there was no announcement so far. Many netizens left comments questioning, can a lighter really set the whole body on fire in an instant? Although her clothes are made of flammable material, it shouldn't spread all over her body in an instant. Shouldn't a normal person put out the fire or call for help in time when their clothes are on fire? However, looking at the surveillance camera, the fire spread all over her body in an instant. She didn't even have a chance to save herself. I don't believe that a lighter can set off such a big fire in an instant. The incident happened a few hours ago, and Huanyu still hasn't made any statement. There's not even an announcement. What are they doing? Unless the clothes were splashed with gasoline or flammable liquid, they would only catch fire when exposed to an open flame. How scary. I heard that Lu Jingtian was badly burned, including her vocal cords. I don't know if she'll be able to speak in the future. At first, I thought it was suicide. But if it was really suicide, who would use such a cruel method? It's not like he's a follower of a cult. Moreover, who would purposely to the bars to commit suicide? I watched the video carefully. There's a person in black in it, but I can't tell if it's a man or a woman. When Lu Jingtian caught fire, he happened to be walking down from the second floor. He looked so calm that it's scary. It's hard not to link him to this incident. Could it be premeditated murder? The netizens discussed animatedly. Chapter 2372. Yun Shishir went back to the hotel to rest. When she woke up in the afternoon, the first thing she did was to grab her phone and open Weibo. Huanyu's official Weibo had already made an announcement. Huanyu Entertainment. To all our fans, we received a very unexpected piece of news last night. Lu Jingtian, the deerneck, was unfortunately burned in an accident at a bar with a friend last night. She is currently receiving treatment at the burn hospital. When the company received the news, they immediately rushed to the hospital to visit her. Her family members also rushed over. Even now, her life is still in danger and she is still undergoing emergency treatment. We can only pray silently that she can get through this life-threatening situation and recover as soon as possible. Let us pray for her and pray for her speedy recovery. Candle, this Weibo post was posted at 1 p.m. In just 2 hours, it was forwarded more than 100,000 times and left hundreds of thousands of comments. A group of keyboard warriors angrily scolded under the post. As a sign management company, they actually released an announcement 10 hours later than the other news outlets. Isn't their attitude too negligent? They didn't mention the outcome of this incident and just said that it was an accident. Gosh. Is this really just an accident? For such a big company, their PR skills are just passable. They should at least briefly explain what happened, right? This announcement is really baffling. Yun Shishir put down her phone and suddenly made a call to Muyaja. When the call connected, Yun Shishir hurriedly said, "Do you remember that I have a sister called Yun Na?" "Yes." "Can you help me check her whereabouts?" "In the basement of the villa." Yun Na entered the room, took off her black clothes, and sat on the bed. She casually picked up the remote control on the bedside table and turned on the TV. The scene changed to the news channel. As expected, Lu Jingtian's accident was the talk of the town. Every TV station was vying to report it. Yun Na leaned against the headboard coldly. How ironic. Yun Yecheng, who had also met with an accident, was still lying in the hospital without the media's attention. As a public figure, Lu Jingtian, on the other hand, had caused quite a stir. Netizens were paying attention to her, and the media's tracking reports were all over the place. She casually picked up an apple, picked up a small knife from the drawer, and casually peeled it. A ghastly scar could be seen at the edge of his sleeve. It was obvious that it had been pierced deeply by some barb. Halfway through peeling, there was a knock on the door. Yun Na glanced at the door. She stood up and walked over to open the door. A woman with heavy makeup stood outside the door. She was wearing a graceful and luxurious coat, and her eyes sized Yun Na up. "Yun Na, you're really cool. You've caused such a big commotion all of a sudden." Yun Na glanced at her, and there was finally a trace of expression on her cold face. With a faint smile, she turned sideways and welcomed her in. She seemed to be quite polite to this woman, but she didn't show much respect. Her attitude was neither cold nor warm. What about women? As if she was used to it, she walked into the room. This was the place that this woman had arranged for her. It was the basement of the villa. It used to be used as a wine cellar to store wine. Now, it was separated by a small room. She had arranged it simply for her to stay. Chapter 2373. The woman was obviously very displeased with Yun Na's actions last night. She closed the door and said coldly, "I saw today's news." Yun Na nodded. "Oh. The woman became angrier at her indifferent response. She sat on the sofa and raised her head to reprimand her. "You're too reckless. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to do this?" The TV behind them was showing Lu Jingtian's tracking report. The scene was switched to the hospital, and a reporter was explaining eloquently. According to reports, the scene of the incident was a mess. The police found traces of alcohol on Lu Jingtian's clothes. The initial suspicion is that the fire was caused by a flammable liquid coming into contact with an open flame. A lighter was found at the scene. The police are trying to get fingerprints from it. The relevant authorities are carrying out further investigation. The woman picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. "Aren't you afraid of arousing her suspicion by being so reckless?" Yun Na raised an eyebrow but did not say anything. "Don't act on your own for the time being. Listen to my arrangements and find the right time to act. I'm worried that she'll be on her guard. If you act on your own at that time, don't be like a lamb in a tiger's den. I still have a use for you. Don't act in a fit of anger." "Got it." The woman suddenly thought of something and ordered, "Let me see your hands." Yun Na did not say anything and stretched out her hands in front of the woman for her to take a look. "Let me see your fingers." Yun Na stretched out her 10 fingers. Out of the 10 fingers on her pair of hands, a part of her right thumb and left index finger had been cut off by a knife. The other fingers seemed to have been scalded by a high temperature and had already healed. However, one could vaguely imagine what kind of painful process she had gone through. As everyone knew, the shape, structure, and details of the fingerprints were very stable. Basically, they would not change for life. If fingerprints were collected at the scene of a crime, it would be a major breakthrough. Unless, of course, the dermis of the fingers were damaged and scarred. In order to prevent future trouble, Yun Na had destroyed her fingerprints. Later, she could not bear the pain of the knife cutting her fingers. Her remaining fingers were all flattened with a soldering iron. "Don't worry, I'll take all the necessary precautions as soon as I leave this door." Even if she destroyed her fingerprints, she would smear her fingers with 502 whenever she went out. They would definitely not leave any traces at the scene. Only then did the woman feel slightly more at ease. Lu Jingtian is currently in the hospital. Her accident has caused quite a stir in the country. During this period of time, don't show your face in public. Just in case, burn the clothes you're wearing. Understood. And, the woman suddenly thought of something and looked at her faintly. "Your father seemed to have seen your face and knew it was you." Yun Na smiled expressionlessly. "Yes. As far as I know, he is in the hospital. He has already passed the critical period and his life is saved." "Why didn't you kill him?" "What? Don't tell me that you're soft-hearted and can't bear to do it." "No." Yun Na said fiercely, "He deserves to die. Even if he dies 10,000 times, it won't be enough." Chapter 2374. The woman said disapprovingly, "Yun Yecheng is a scourge. He's like a ticking time bomb. Something will go wrong sooner or later. You should have done more cleanly back then." "I understand what you mean." "Humph. But now's not the time. Yun Shishir has people watching over him in the hospital. There's no chance at all. You'll only make a mistake if you act rashly." "It's fine. It won't be too late to act after the alert is lifted." "Yes." The woman sneered. "I won't allow you to make any mistakes. Yun Na, I'm keeping you because you're still useful. And your greatest value is that no one will realize that you're still alive. From now on, you're not allowed to do what you did yesterday a second time." Last night, Yun Na acted rashly without any prior notice. She was furious. At this critical juncture, if there was even the slightest mistake, there would be no hope of redemption. Yun Na nodded. "I understand. I'll be careful." "All right, I won't stay any longer. Don't go out for the next few days. If you need anything, just call this number. Someone will send it to you." After saying that, the woman threw a business card on the bedside table, stood up, and left gracefully in her high heels. The door closed again. Yun Na locked the door and returned to bed. She turned on the television and watched the surveillance footage on the screen. The TV station had deliberately circled the figure in black and analyzed it repeatedly. There were different opinions. She glanced at it and suddenly curled her lips into a cold smile, revealing a row of white teeth. Her smile was sinister and strange. In the past few days, Yun Yecheng's body had gradually recovered. The infection had stabilized, and he had safely passed the critical stage. This week, he would undergo his third skin transplant surgery. Other than preserving his eyelids and eyeballs, some functional skin grafts could at least restore his appearance to a certain extent if the situation was optimistic. He had severe burns all over his body, and his face was disfigured. The hospital could only use skin grafts to transplant the skin from his buttocks to his face for the first stage of cosmetic restoration. Yun Yecheng had been in a coma. He woke up intermittently a few times, but he could not open his mouth or even eat smoothly. He could only rely on nutrient fluids to sustain himself. Yun Shishir was allowed to enter the ward to accompany her. As soon as she stepped into the ward, she saw her father covered in white ointment. His face was pitch black, like a cracked wall. His skin was peeling badly, and he looked terrible. She felt as if a knife was being twisted in her heart. During the night watch, she was reading the script, but she couldn't calm down. Whenever Yun Yecheng was unconscious, he would let out a painful and broken sound from his throat, which was heart-wrenching. However, his vocal cords had been burned, so he couldn't make any sound other than a faint gasp. The pain of being corroded by sulfuric acid was not something an ordinary person could imagine. Even with a few injections of painkillers, it was difficult for him to sleep soundly. Yun Shishir could only sit by the side, feeling helpless. Living like this was really embarrassing and painful. How could that person be so cruel? There were a few times when Yun Yecheng was in so much pain that he let out sobbing sounds as tears streamed down his face. Yun Shishir could only bear with the pain and quickly wipe his tears away to prevent them from flowing into his wound. She couldn't drink water for the time being, so she could only dip a cotton swab in water and gently apply it to her lips. Chapter 2375. Yun Shishir said, "Uncle, you don't have to come all the time. Your legs aren't good, so you'll only be anxious if you come. I'll take care of Dad. There are also 4 nurses taking turns to look after him during the day, so you don't have to worry." Yun Yeho sighed. "I know that I'm a cripple who can't even move properly, so I'll only be a hindrance if I come, but I'm thinking that I can at least help a little when he wakes up and you're not around." Yun Shishir said helplessly, "What do you mean by a cripple? Uncle, aren't you being too serious?" "That's the truth." Yun Yeho tugged at the corner of his lips, looking somewhat helpless. After a moment of silence, he smiled and said, "The truth is, you don't have to worry about me. After so many years, I'm used to it. I can take care of myself." Yun Shishir did not know what to do with him, so she did not say anything more. In the past few days, the number of media reporters camping outside the hospital had lessened. Compared to the army of reporters who had previously camped outside the hospital's entrance, more than half of those despicable reporters had left when they realized that they could not get any news. The remaining few were still camping outside the hospital's entrance, hoping to get some big news or insider information. Lu Jingtian's life was saved after the emergency treatment. Similar to Yun Yecheng, her vocal cords were severely burned, so it was likely that she would not be able to speak coherently in the future. Fortunately, at least the patient was saved. During the treatment, there was a shortage of blood bags. Lu Jingtian's blood type was not considered rare, but the blood bank was in a state of emergency. Many enthusiastic netizens rushed to the hospital to donate blood and cheer her on. No matter what, her life was saved. After coming out of the emergency room, Huan Yu's official Weibo updated its status to inform the public of Lu Jingtian's current situation. It also expressed some official words, such as thanking the fans for their concern and the kindness from all walks of life. Ever since Huan Yu's official Weibo posted this announcement, the other artistes in the company spontaneously reposted it to encourage and cheer her on. Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian, and most of Huan Yu's artistes sent their blessings. How many of these blessings came from the bottom of their hearts, though? Most of them were pompous and superficial greetings. The so-called support was mostly insincere. How many of them were sincerely praying for Lu Jingtian? Lu Jingtian was usually vying to stand out in the company, so she was not very popular. Many people were secretly happy when they found out that she was disfigured. This was especially true for a female star who had recently been snatched from the lead role by Lu Jingtian. She was so happy that she did not know what to do. This was retribution from the heavens. Of course, he could only keep these thoughts in his heart. But at this time, who would dare to add insult to injury? This was a critical juncture. Lu Jingtian's burn incident had caused a sensation all over the country. The more they were at this juncture, the more they had to be mindful of their words and actions. There were many keyboard warriors on the internet. If you were not sincere enough, your fans would definitely accuse you of being cold, heartless, or cruel. Yun Shishir was innocently implicated. For the past few days, Yun Shishir had been taking care of Yun Yeqing at the hospital. She did everything by herself, no matter how big or small, and thus neglected the latest news about Lu Jingtian on Weibo. Many fans saw that the other artists of Huanyu had posted on Weibo to express their concern, but Yun Shishir did not. They started to question her indifference. Chapter 2376. Qin Zhou logged into her Weibo account and posted a post on her behalf to express his concern. However, even though he released it in time, the fans didn't buy it. Lu Jingtian's injury is so serious. The other artistes in the company immediately posted their concern on Weibo. Why did you only post it now? You're too cold. She's your colleague, after all. Isn't it too cold for you to pay attention to this matter so late? Seeing that their idol was being attacked, Yun Shishir's die-hard fans immediately retaliated in the comments section of Weibo. Why didn't I realize that she had so many fans in the past? Now that she's in trouble, all of you are pretending to be her fans. Do you think you're the Virgin Mary, standing on the high ground to criticize others? That's right. Why didn't I see you guys as her fans in the past? Now that she's in trouble, you're pretending to be the Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary be asterisk cheese. What makes you think that you have to post on Weibo to express your concern? You're so pretentious and hypocritical. Lu Jingtian isn't the country's leader or director. There are so many innocent and unfortunate people every day. Does Shishir have to post on Weibo to express her concern for each and every one of them? What a joke. If she has the time to care so much about a celebrity, she might as well put more focus on her parents. Lu Jingtian has so many scandals. Does she think that she can clear her name just because she's injured? Hee. Just as Yun Shishir's Weibo was in a heated debate, some observant fans noticed the abnormality in her latest post. Shishir doesn't usually use this phone, right? Why is it displayed as a VOA client? That's right. Isn't Shishir using the phone she's endorsing? When one posted a status on Weibo, the phone brand's client would be displayed. As Yun Shishir was endorsing a phone brand, according to the advertiser's request, she had to use the brand's latest phone in public places, especially online portals. Some nosy fans followed the clues and found Qin Zhou's Weibo. After comparing the client logo displayed, they immediately said, "This Weibo post isn't posted by Yun Shishir herself. I think it's probably her manager who used his own phone to log into her Weibo account and post it." At this moment, the flames of war erupted. Many fans accused Yun Shishir of being cold and indifferent. Even when she posted a Weibo status to express her concern for the victim, she asked her manager to do it on her behalf. She had no sincerity at all. When the news spread to Yun Shishir, the scolding war on Weibo had escalated like a raging fire. Hardcore fans and anti-fans stood in 2 rows, arguing on Weibo. Yun Shishir felt gloomy. She was confused for a moment. She didn't even know when she had posted that on Weibo. No matter how she thought about it, it might have been sent by Qin Zhou. She immediately called Qin Zhou to verify the situation. Qin Zhou didn't know that because he didn't care about blocking his client's logo, his identity was exposed. Oh no. I did something bad with good intentions. Yun Shishir's lips twitched. Boss, if you have any instructions, you can call me. It's just a Weibo post. I still have some free time. Chapter 2377. Qin Zhou pondered for a moment before saying, no matter what, you'd better explain this on Weibo. Just say that you're taking care of your father in the hospital. Just tell the truth. Otherwise, you'll be the hottest topic on Weibo. Yun Shishir broke out in cold sweat. Okay. She went online and posted a long Weibo post to explain the situation. When her die-hard fans learned that her father was hospitalized, they became even angrier. Shishir has been taking care of her seriously injured father in the hospital these few days. You keyboard warriors are too much to attack her indiscriminately. There were also fans of the magical powers who dug up the background of those anti-fans. Yun Shishir was not in the mood to care about the chaos online. For a few days, Yun Shishir and Gong Jia took turns to take care of her father in the hospital. She had to admit that she thought that Gong Jia was a man, after all. It was fine for him to stay overnight, but if he were to take care of an injured person, he would not be attentive enough. However, she was still worried at first and came to the hospital to take a look. When she saw Gong Jia taking care of her father, who was lying on the hospital bed, she was surprised and felt warmth in her heart. He was very attentive to Yun Yecheng and would do everything himself, busying himself with everything. In fact, Gong Jia was an extremely heartless person. He rarely got close to anyone. If not for Yun Shishir, he would not have taken pity on her father even if he was seriously injured and lying in front of him. However, it was precisely because this ordinary man raised his sister single-handedly. The kindness of raising her was as heavy as Mount Tai. Therefore, even if there were inevitably some dirty and tiring work when he took care of her, he still did not complain and was considerate and attentive. Taking care of such a seriously injured person was really not a good job. However, Gong Jia took care of her very carefully and did not complain at all. At the same time, the Mu Group also released an announcement regarding Mu Yaja's resignation as the Mu Group's CEO. Unsurprisingly, the moment the announcement was released, there was an uproar again. Mu Yaja was a cunning old fox. He had clearly stated in the announcement that Mu Yaja had resigned on his own accord and that it had nothing to do with the company's internal affairs. He also made it clear that after Mu Yaja announced his resignation, Mu Corporation tried to persuade him to stay, but he did not cherish the opportunity. However, this announcement letter still caused countless waves of commotion. Everyone in Mu Group was speechless. To Mu Yaja, the position of CEO was dispensable. In his eyes, the position that so many people coveted but couldn't get was worthless in his eyes. He didn't want it at all. The other competitors of the Mu family felt even more indignant. The things that they were fighting for at all costs were not rare in the eyes of others at all. After the announcement was released, it caused a huge uproar. Naturally, Mu Group's shares fell again and again on the same day. They fell to the bottom of the valley. Hundreds of millions of yuan of market value disappeared overnight. Of course, this loss was not a big deal to the Mu family, but it was not a small loss either. It still caused a lot of turmoil in the Mu family. Chapter 2378. Many reporters found out that the second head of the Mu family preferred Mu Yancheng, the illegitimate son of the Mu family. Mu Yancheng? Can he do it? With a pioneer like Mu Yaja in front of him, if he were to rise to the top, would he be able to shine like Mu Yaja? It was impossible. Everyone knew that no one in the Mu family could replace Mu Yaja's position and achievements. After Mu Yaja left the Mu Group, everyone's confidence in the Mu Group was greatly reduced. Just like what Mu Yaja had said, the Mu Group would only become a wasteland without him. In addition to the plunge in the stock market, many investors withdrew their investments. Some of them who had deep ties with the Mu Group chose to withdraw their investments. If this situation continued, the Mu Group would be trampled under his feet sooner or later. Taking advantage of the turbulence in the Mu Group, the Xingyu Financial Group also launched a large-scale offensive, boldly and decisively building momentum. This was where Mu Yaja's shrewdness came into play. The reason why these shareholders and investors withdrew their investments, leaving aside the fertile projects of the Mu Group, was that they no longer had confidence in the Mu Group. Mu Yaja's departure meant that the huge mountain of Mu Group had lost its leader. In this way, in such a cruel market, he would no longer have a leadership position. For so long, he had been biding his time, waiting for the day when the Mu Group released the announcement letter. Many companies chose to withdraw their investments from the Mu Group. Hence, Mu Yaja casually sent Jiang Shen and Lu Jinyu to rope in those shareholders. On the second day after the Mu Group released the announcement letter, the Xingyu Financial Group announced a new round of financing. The legal person of the group was officially changed to Mu Yaja. Thanks to Song Jinghua, with the land in the new city in his hands, the financing went very smoothly. In just a few days, it exceeded his expectations by several times. The financing went very smoothly. Just a week after Mu Corporation issued the announcement letter, Xingyu Financial Group was listed on the New York Stock Exchange and announced its listing. On the day Xingyu Financial Group went public, it was unprecedented. The opening price was $99.32, with a total market value of $452.4 billion. It was much more than expected. Before this, many people had noticed this eye-catching group. In just a few years, it had achieved extraordinary results. After it went public, it quickly took the lead and even surpassed many famous local companies in the United States. After being listed, Mu Yaja's extraordinary effect could be said to be unprecedented. This meant that once Xingyu was listed, he would have a net worth of hundreds of millions. The news quickly spread to the Song family. That night, Song Jinghua came home angrily. He slammed the financial newspaper on the table and scolded, "This kid is really good at scheming. I was wondering why he was able to step down from his position as the CEO of the Mu family so easily back then. He was so confident and disdainful. He didn't even want it anymore." It turned out that a few years ago, he had secretly planned and cultivated his own forces. Now that Xingyu is listed, its stock price rose to $120 by the end of the day. He's really riding on the crest of success. When Jiang Qiming heard this, she was a little confused and hurriedly asked what was going on. Song Jinghua tugged at his tie in annoyance and paced a few rounds on the spot. He slammed the table, his veins popping out in anger. "He's set me up. Damn it." Chapter 2379. Song Jinghua said unhappily, "What else could it be? Your brother is very shrewd." Back when he was still in the Mu family, he relied on the Mu family's resources to cultivate his own company. Even the Mu family didn't know about this. In order to hide it from others, the legal person of Xingyu Financial Group was Lu Jinyu's name from the beginning. A few days ago, he changed the legal person. Last night, he listed it in New York and became hundreds of billions of yuan. I've really underestimated his capabilities previously. I thought that after he left the Mu family, he would have nothing. Song Enya was watching TV in the living room. When she heard her father's words, she was shocked and her eyelids twitched. "Dad, what did you say? How did the Xingyu Financial Group, which has been very popular recently, become Brother Mu's? Can't you tell? He's been planning for this day for a long time. The second in charge of the Mu family is probably going to be angered to death. They nurtured him wholeheartedly, but in the end, they raised an ingrate. Now that he's gone, not only did he take away a lot of the Mu family's resources, but many shareholders and investors also withdrew their investments from the Mu Group and transferred their investments to the Xingyu Financial Group. In this way, the Mu Group must have suffered a great loss after suffering such a heavy blow." Song Enya's face turned pale as she sorted out the situation. Jiang Qiming said in a daze, "You mean to say that a few years ago, that kid had already started planning something else and established Xingyu? This Xingyu is his doing? What else could it be?" Song Jinghua said unhappily, "I've dealt with Xingyu a few times, but I didn't find anything fishy. I didn't expect that, from the beginning to the end, this kid had everything planned out. Not long ago, he took that piece of land from me and used it to finance his project. Now, he's so proud of himself." Hearing this, Song Enya bit her lip hard as her facial muscles twitched. "Oh my God. What was this? What was this?" Ever since that incident, her love for Mu Yaja was as deep as her hatred. The more she loved him, the more she hated him now. She had thought that after Mu Yaja left the Mu group, he would have nothing left. At first, she was secretly proud. She was counting on the day when she became the young madam of Mu Jia. She must run to Yun Shishir to show off. But what about her? He wanted to see with his own eyes how dejected they were. After leaving the Mu group and losing that position, that arrogant and extraordinary man must have fallen from the peak to the bottomless abyss, right? Chasing after love? Did she disregard fame and fortune for the sake of love? At that time, she would be different. As long as Mu Yanqing acknowledged the child in her womb and married into the Mu family, she would be the Mu family's young mistress. She did not have to worry about Mu Yanqing refusing to acknowledge the child. She had plenty of means to force him to acknowledge it. As for Yun Shishir, she was with a down-and-out man and had nothing. Just thinking about it made her blood boil. What about Mu Yaja? She still wanted to see how he would regret it when he ended up in such a miserable state. He had chosen to be *tch like Yun Shishir. He was even willing to abandon his family and step down as the head of the household for her. She wanted to see how lowly this man, who had always been high-spirited, would be when he lost his power and wealth. She even wanted to see how he would regret it when the time came. Chapter 2380. What about now? Not only was this man not down and out, he was even flushed with success. Even after leaving the Mu group, he was still wealthy and had a lot of money. Song Enya was livid with anger as she threw the pillow on the floor. How could this be? In the end, wasn't she just like a clown being toyed with by him? In the end, wasn't she being treated like a joke by that woman? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She stood up and wanted to return to her room, but just as she stood up, she blacked out on the sofa. She did not know if it was due to her emotions or something else. After losing consciousness for a short while, she woke up in her room. Song Jinghua and Jiang Qiming hurriedly sent her to her bedroom when they saw her faint. They were in a hurry to get the family doctor to check on her, but she had already woken up. Seeing that she was awake, Song Jinghua spat, "What's wrong with you again? Why is your body so weak? Why? Did you get agitated after hearing that man's success?" Jiang Qiming immediately retorted, "Our daughter isn't feeling well. Stop talking so much. Do you still want to add fuel to the fire? What kind of tone is that?" "Jinghua," Jiang Qiming said, "leave us alone for a while. I want to have a heart-to-heart talk with our daughter." "Forget it. Do whatever you want. I'm also troubled, so don't bother me." With that, he slammed the door and left. As soon as he left, Song Enya broke down and burst into tears. "Mom. Enya, what's wrong? Mom. Mom. I've become a clown again. This time, they'll only gloat and laugh at me. Whether it's Yun Shishir or Brother Mu, they all treat me like a clown and play me in the palm of their hands. Mom. I worked so hard to marry into the Mu family and did everything I could to open their eyes and see how glorious I am when I become a young mistress. Even without Brother Mu, I can still live well. But now, Brother Mu is flushed with success again. Poor me for being so silly. In the end, I still fell into his trap. How could he do this? Why are you so cruel to me?" The more he thought about it, the more terrifying it was. From the beginning to the end, Mu Yaja, as well as her and Song Jinghua, had calculated everything perfectly. He had long known that she had stolen his sperm. He had long known that she had secretly gone to the United States to arrange for artificial insemination. He had long calculated all of this and used it as leverage to threaten her in disguise. He had snatched the land of the new city from her father's hands, raised funds with great fanfare, and went public. Overnight, he had become a billionaire. She was so pitiful. She was deeply in love and had put in so much effort, but in the end, she was only a stepping stone for him. What was this? Mom. I really can't accept it. I was deeply in love, but I was betrayed. What was so good about that Yun sure that he would do everything to fight for her? And what about me? I actually became a stepping stone for him to step on. He used me to the fullest, but he didn't even look at me. Why? She used to think that she was special. At the very least, he had never given his tenderness to any other woman except for her. But now, she felt that she was a pitiful lunatic from head to toe, a fool.